All right, welcome to MazzaMedia. Happy Saturday afternoon. We're live on YouTube. I always get this camera adjusted right at the last moment. Thank you for everyone tuning in. It is March 7th, 2026, and the trial for Kelsey Fitzsimmons is 16 days away. The trial readiness hearing is going to be coming up on, let me make sure one thing. Should be good to go. All right, the trial readiness hearing is coming up on the 12th, and it's going to be a busy month here for Kelsey Fitzsimmons and her defense team. So this is really where it's all coming to a head from a criminal standpoint or criminal charges standpoint. So we're going to go over the timeline today. First off, I just want to give a shout out to Broken Baker. Broken Baker just had a 2-hour show this morning where he went over some documents pertaining to Kelsey and all the things that pertain to that. Very great show by him today. He actually, I actually didn't know he knew I had a show. I was like, Broken Baker, I'll let you go, if you need another 30 minutes, because I wasn't sure if he knew, but I'm kind of like, he must have known I had a 12 o'clock show. So I messaged him in the group, in the chat, and I said, I'll start at 12:30 if you need to finish this out, because I want the audience to get the full, the full presentation that he was doing today. But he said, no, just start at 12. So it's good to work as a team. Appreciate that from Broken Baker, who forwarded his audience over to me as well. So Broken Baker, thank you for that. And again, this is about people helping people. And I just want to make sure when Broken Baker is doing a show that he has the time he needs to go over the full presentation, the full documents to get that information out there. Because at the end of the day, this is what this is all about. This is about sharing the story, getting information out there, and continuing to push forward together. That's what we want. So I like to support Broken Baker. He's supporting me as well today. So I love the teamwork and the camaraderie here as well, which is great news. And some upcoming announcements here. So let's talk about, before we get going, and what today's show is going to be about. Let's talk about Common Sense Investigator. She's in the chat right now. She's going to be live tomorrow at 4 p.m. She's doing a Kelsey Fitzsimmons fundraiser. I'm going to be on that show. Broken Baker is going to be on that show. Claudia King is going to be on that show. And some other guests, I believe, are going to be on that show. I think Nurse Kim might even be on the show tomorrow. So 4 p.m. tomorrow. Every time I go to my studio lights, the glasses start to appear not as clean. Sorry about the description. But yes, we're going to have a fundraiser for Kelsey tomorrow. And we're going to see how much we can push this fundraiser. And it's going to be huge. So I'm looking forward to that. It's always hard to put these glasses back on when I get this headset on. We're going to do that tomorrow. That's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it. And let's look at a smear on this thing. My goodness gracious. Unbelievable. Sorry, folks, for the delay. Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Please bear with the host. All right. It should be good. It's going to bug me all the show if I don't clean it out. 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right. So, yeah. 4 o'clock tomorrow, Common Sense Investigator on YouTube. Lauren, Katie, and a whole host of people are going to be on that program tomorrow. We're going to help Kelsey get the funds that she needs raised. We're going to continue to push for that, help her out. Let's take a look at the GiveSendGo right now. Let's see where that's at. We're closing in on the $100,000. And the last show, Lauren, Katie was on my show for this. The last show we did, we really pushed it high. She's at $95,000 right now. $95,082 right now. $5,000 away from crossing $100,000, and that may potentially happen tomorrow on Lauren Katie's show. So I'm happy if we can get that done tomorrow. So we'll see what we can do, and then we'll make it happen. Excellent. And I'm just reading through some of the comments. Teamwork, exactly. Shout out to Lauren by Rhonda. Debbie, hello. Good afternoon, Tracy. Take a look at some of the comments here. Law girls, not attorneys. Actually is basically has provided me the information I need to do this show today, which is what we're going to go over, is the timeline. So law girls, not attorneys. In the house, Mr. Monk's understudies here. Dizzy's here. Crispy Treats here. Arca's Chicken Gun is here. Joy's here. Hey, Olivia Niles here. Olivia, hope you're doing well today. Hope everything's going well. Mullen Law wants that $100,000 tomorrow. She's confident that it will happen. And hey, I thought we were going to get like $1,000 last week. I did my show and Lauren Katie says to me, she goes, Mazza, we're going to get way more than 1,000. I go, but yes, I just want to get 1,100 so I can get my total, our total through the Mazza show up to 25,000. Well, what ended up happening was over $11,000 came in and we got over 35,000 through Mazza shows. So Steve's here, Janelle's here, B Nothing's here, Emily C's Fake Lally, Siggy is here, Katie's here. Good afternoon. M Fetters is here. Good to see you as well. See who else we got. The Goodmans are in the house. Oasis Cat's in the house. We got to talk about that interview, please. Oh, we're going to talk about it. You bet. The other Mary B. Hi, friends. I'm driving but listening. Saturday is a good day to drive. Cynthia Marks, only 5K to go. Yeah, a lot of familiar handles here. Let's see who else is here. Niall, Courtney. Michelle says, your show was amazing last weekend. Thank you. Baker's Favorite Suitcase is here. Diane G. Ms. Nomer. Trying to give some shout outs. Now pretty much caught up. Courtney's here. All right. The Roken Baker. Yeah, the interviewer just bad PR. So here's my schedule. Today, obviously, tomorrow on Common Sense Investigator at 4 p.m. fundraiser. Monday night, I'm going to be live again on Monday night. I am going to be covering the North Andover select board meeting. That will be live here on MazzaMedia. I will be live. I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm not going to talk. I mean, when the lady was speaking last Monday, I was trying to talk in between when she talked, and I successfully did that. However, when those clips are clipped and placed on Twitter, I don't want those clips to have my narration on them because I want people to get the hard copy of what happened. So I think what I'm going to do is Monday, I'm just going to stay silent when the talkers talk and maybe talk in between them or just before them. And then I'm going to go back and replay it all. And then I'll do the commentary and narration of how I ended up doing. It was my first time ever doing a select board live. So I just said I didn't like the way it looked once it got cut on Twitter. So I'm going to make some adjustments on that for Monday. So I'm going to be more quiet. And then, not that I interrupted it, but just be more quiet. And then I'm going to go back, play it all back again, and then re-review it. Because I'm expecting people to show up Monday night. I think that a lot of people in that town weren't sure if there was going to be a select board meeting or not, but there's definitely going to be one Monday night. So we're going to, that's a good point then. People can clip it right from the North Andover Select Board website. That's what I did, she says. Okay, perfect. Good to know. But yeah, we're going to do that. So I'm going to be live 3 days in a row, 2 times on my own show, Common Sense Investigator tomorrow. Then I'm going to basically be offline for a couple of days, but that's okay. But we're going to have a lot of coverage here. Today's show is going to be about the timeline. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, because you want to know something. This is going to be what everybody wants to hear primarily right now. This is big news. Last night, NBC 10 did an interview with Justin that was basically on the record, but not recorded. He did not choose to conduct that interview. If anybody needs that interview, one sec. You want to go, I might be freezing up again. You can just go right to NBC 10 Boston on YouTube. Amy Boston's in the house. Ernie's in the house. You can go to, someone can post the link too if they have it. It's also on my YouTube Twitter page. If you guys want to just grab it and share that here, that's perfectly fine. Yep. And then let's see what we got here. They have a meeting Tuesday and stuff. Okay. But yeah, they have, one sec. They have that interview. And yeah, you guys can just post the link right in here for everybody. I won't be playing it because I don't know what the copyrights are like. So I just don't feel like having this video get hit. But essentially, you know what I could do? Actually, there's a way around this. I can just read. I can just do the article. One sec. Here it is. I can just go to the article itself. Okay. Let's do that instead. Let's put this over here. And let's look. Okay, here we go. I got the link. I'm not going to play the video, but I will go to the webpage and read through it. So this was brought to my attention last night, and I was actually like, honestly, I had made like my last Twitter post of the night, and I was gonna just kick back, and I very much am, when you follow this stuff a lot, like I try to make sure I have a balance of, like time to just sit down, kick back, watch a movie or something. So late last night, I had pretty much made my last post for the night, and then I got a message with this information. So the next half an hour, I was like all over this. I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? So basically, I got to find out why this Google Chrome keeps freezing that I'm using. But yes, I found out about this last night, and this is on their YouTube page. I'm going to try to expand this. Okay, there we go. So Justin, the ex-fiance, had conducted an interview with NBC 10 about what happened. So they're obviously disputing this. They're claiming, he lived there. And honestly, in all full actuality, I just felt that it's been known that they have a PR team, a public relations team. And it's just my honest opinion that the public relations team had basically had this idea in mind. So I don't feel like, I don't feel like he just said, oh, I'm going to do an interview with NBC 10. I feel like this was an interview that his team had ultimately, I got to figure out why my Google Chrome keeps freezing. This has been going on for about a week. Getting a little tired of it. I got to figure out something here. Even if I have to reboot this browser, because the rest of the computer works very quickly. I'm getting tired of this. Okay, so it's just my opinion that they conducted. So he shared his side of the story with NBC 10's Robert Golston. He did not want the interview recorded. And a lot of people are calling attention to that right now. And that was one of the first things I noticed. I noticed that I just thought that was very notable, because you have to remember, in this kind of situation, when court's coming up, when you're listed as a witness, when you're almost certainly going to be cross-examined, you know that, you just can't go on the news or whatever and just say things or run the risk of, like, even Karen's interviews were pre-recorded. You just can't go up there and suddenly you say the wrong thing. So you want like a controlled environment. So that's when I hear like this interview, he did not want this interview recorded. That tells me, that to me, that tells me that's the PR team and probably any legal counsel he has saying, hey, let's do the interview for PR purposes. Let's get out there and give our side of the story, but let's not have it recorded because we don't want Kelsey's defense team picking it apart. That's the attitude I get. So the PR aspect is, hey, let's speak to NBC 10. The legal standpoint is, hey, let's not have it recorded because we don't want this used against us in court. That's what I take about that. And I do think that Bradel and his defense team will ultimately probably bring that up. Like, hey, when you did that interview with NBC 10 Boston, why was it that you did not want to have that interview recorded? What were you afraid of? They might end up using that in court as a part of a cross. So he admitted he and others forced the door open to the home where he lived with Fitzsimmons until their falling out. He is an attorney who shared documents that prove he still lived there. So they're saying that they have legal documents. The defense team has shown us materials that show that he lived at Stowe, Mass. So that's obviously going to be contested by both sides. One side's going to say he lived there. The other side's going to say that he is not. So again, this is another he said, she said, and ultimately legal documents are going to be what ultimately determine this. However, if people remember, there was a deed that was shared, and the deed only had Kelsey Fitzsimmons' name on that. So it's important to remember that he and his team or whomever or the prosecution cannot, if this comes up during trial, and I'm sure it probably will, they cannot say that his name was on the deed, because we've seen a copy of the deed, and only Kelsey's name is actually on that. So this is something that's very important to note, and something that's important to say, because his name is not on that deed. So I don't know what other information they have. Fitzsimmons' defense attorney, Tim Bradel, said in court last Friday that when Justin requested the restraining order days earlier, he signed an affidavit that said he no longer lived there. So that's again the one that says Stowe, and lied to the officer when he asked for an escort into the home. He has no rights whatsoever to the house whatsoever, Bradel told the judge at his client's pretrial hearing. He says he still lives there, completely contradicting what he already swore to at probate court, family court judge, to get the restraining order, which is, again, he lived at Stowe. Fitzsimmons' attorney argued that Justin is not being charged because the Essex County District Attorney's Office needs him to testify against Fitzsimmons in the criminal case. He is on the witness list for Fitzsimmons' criminal case, but not a key witness. I also want to note to you that 3 of the 4 men that were in that house on that video are listed as witnesses, everyone but Justin's brother. Justin's brother is not on the witness list, just so you guys know. But the 3 of the men are, including the Haverhill firefighter that used to be in North Andover. He may be a background witness. He heard shots, but as far as what happened in the bedroom, he has no idea, said ADA James Gubitosi of the Essex County District Attorney's Office. Justin told NBC 10 he did not touch any of Fitzsimmons' stuff on the day in question, and he said he never called police when he said he even called police when the alarm went off. He also told her father that day, "I tried to do everything to help your daughter," and that's basically the article. So that is the nuts and bolts of all of that. So again, that doesn't speak to other claims, though. Now, one thing that can be argued, KY Mavericks here. KY Maverick has been posting articles all over Twitter that he's writing. Claudia King has been posting articles on Twitter that she has been writing. This does not speak to all the other breaches that Kelsey found on her computer. Kelsey Fitzsimmons was able to provide information, screenshots to her defense team that show access to the computer on days where she was in the hospital. And I highly doubt, considering that laptop, because again, that laptop or computer, whichever, is still logged in on the Wi-Fi, which is Braceland, which is at his house in Stowe, or his parents' house in Stowe. So that information, whether or not they want the prosecution or whoever's defending Justin want to make the argument about whether or not he technically, Gubitosi's here, lived there, that doesn't speak to the fact, the information that Kelsey Fitzsimmons has that shows access to that laptop, that shows funds moved, trips canceled, etc. So I just felt like this was a PR thing. I just feel like this was his PR team saying, "Hey, let's get you on." And I think that's basically where it went. So I am, this is going to be a big he said, she said, but it's going to come down to documents, legal stuff. But I do think it's suspicious that the Essex County DA and that DA's office is not looking more into this. And I think Bradel makes a great argument when he contends that this is about, basically the fact the man's a witness for the prosecution, for the Commonwealth. So it's going to go back and forth, but that is ultimately the nuts and bolts of what's happening here. Comments made in Lemonade. If he lived there, then why didn't he use the computer at his house? Well, exactly. I mean, he could have used this computer at his own house, but maybe she had saved passwords in her browser, perhaps. Obviously, he tried to log in multiple times to AOL, Facebook, all that stuff documented. This is a tough out for him, as far as I'm concerned. They have a lot of information on him, And, he can contest whether or not he had, let's put it this way. Let's, because I'm a two-way thinker and because I like to do analytical thinking, let's just say this. Let's say he did technically live there. Let's say the locks were changed, which is interesting because if he lived there, why would the father change the locks? Because he would have only changed the locks if no one else lived there but Kelsey. I'm just saying. But let's say this. Let's say that he did still technically live there. Let's say, for argument's sake, he has information that shows that he still legally lives there. Well, what about the fact that the laptop was taken? What about the fact that the laptop was accessed? What about the fact that all kinds of transactions and money movements were going on? What about all that? And there's a federal aspect about this. There's a lot of people saying there's a lot of federal crimes here. Some people, there's rumors right now that the feds are involved or reviewing this. Britt Happens is here. Hey, Mazza and Chat, I'm at work and can't stay, but wanted to show my support. Britt Happens, thank you so much. Right. So there's other things here. So even at the end of the day, let's just say he still lived there and he had the right to be in the house. Okay, fine. But what about everything else? What about everything else? And Maverick agrees with that as well. So it's always like anything. You can say, okay, fine. Okay, let's say you did live there. Great. But what about everything else? What about all the other things that are being asked of you or the accusations, the allegations? So, and honestly, look, I mean, when you look at the, like Emily C's fake Lally Siggy saying here, if there's federal offenses involved here, then a breaking and entering is the least of anyone's worries. That's all I have to say about that, because this is so much bigger than that. Again, if all that is true, which based on what I've seen, I have no reason to not believe Kelsey and her defense team with the information they provided. And that bracelet login for the Wi-Fi connection is very big information. And, that all shows you, on a lot of that stuff we saw, it shows you dates, it shows you times, it shows you a lot of stuff. So that's a lot to work around. And so again, the breaking and entering, I mean, at the end of the day, that might be the one of the smaller potential violations here when you look at the grand scheme of things of what was taken from that day, what was accessed, what was attempted, identity fraud essentially is being alleged. So there's a lot of information out there to still place him in a situation where he's going to have a lot to answer for. And any attorneys he has or PR team, whatever, they're going to have a lot to answer for and a lot to address, because there are very, very steep, right. There's a lot of arguments, and that's a lot to answer for. And again, I mean, that security camera, that thing could have been hooked back up again in no time at all after being destroyed. They could have got him on tape re-entering the house to return the laptop 10 to 20 days later, say, for example. So there's a lot here. There's a lot of moving parts right now. And when there's a civil lawsuit, I'm more than confident Kelsey's going to file one against the North Andover Police Department, probably the fire department, probably obviously other individuals as well. This is all going to have to be answered to. And you're going to have data experts, data analysts that can come in and say, yes, when Kelsey Fitzsimmons was in the hospital after that incident, it was accessed on July 3rd or 4th or 5th, whatever, and that's it. There is a transaction that shows could have been Janelle. There's a lot of information to say, why did you cancel a trip? Why did you send the money back to your account as if it was paid for with her account? So there's a lot to go over there. So if you're in his shoes, this is not a great place to be. And quite honestly, if he had nothing to worry about, then his PR team would have nothing to worry about. And if his PR team had nothing to worry about, they would have no need to go onto NBC 10 and conduct that interview. And if they did want to conduct that interview, they would have no need to not have that interview recorded, because they would be fully confident in their innocence. When Karen Reed, in between trials, did interviews. Her attorneys allowed her to have those interviews recorded. You know, even the McAlberts, for goodness sakes, who are people that I don't believe in terms of their story at all, even they had their interview recorded post-trial too. So it's interesting to me that they didn't have this interview recorded, and I think that tells you volumes. It tells you volumes that the PR, I'm guessing that's the PR team's office where that interview was conducted. But this is, I mean, again, they obviously the defense team, Bradel's defense team, and Kelsey's father with his video and Kelsey's findings on the laptop, obviously they flushed out the other side of this enough to feel like they had to go public, because again, that was a public relations move. It was a public relations move. There's no way him or his defense, what attorneys he may or may not have, would have ever said, hey, let's go do an interview with NBC 10. It would have had to have been the PR team. That had to have been the PR team's office. That's just my guess. I could be wrong. I'm just speculating here, but that is, you know, what I'm seeing here is I just feel like they felt like they needed to respond to that. And again, when they did have him respond to that, it was done with limitation. It was done with restrictions. He chose, or they chose, not to have the interview with NBC 10 recorded. They just showed stills. Here he is. Here's a still picture of him sitting there. That's all. You know, that's all they could get. That's all they could go over. So this is, you know, to me, right. I mean, exactly. I would much rather be in Kelsey's shoes than his. One's reputation is everything. And, you know, again, I mean, there's going to be questions. I mean, there's questions here. I mean, there's questions for every person that entered that house right now. You know, again, because there's a lot of debate. There's a lot. It's one side saying they had the right to access. The other side is not. You know, and if he did, you know, if he told those guys, guess what? I still live there. Come in the house with me. Then those guys could argue, hey, he told us that he still lived there. We didn't know that he didn't live there anymore. He told us he still lived there. So those other firefighters might argue that. But, you know, still, you know, I don't know. It's an ugly situation for that side. And obviously, again, they had to go on. They had to have him on the news. They had to respond because, again, I said this before, Lauren Katie and I have been on a lot of shows. You know, Mo and Law, I said this to her on the last show I did. It's not a great image. It's not a great visual to see him going in that house a couple of days later. It's not a great thing to have when a defense team is saying he did this when he went in the house and here's all the information. It's not a good look when it's happening in court. It's not a good look when you're a public servant and our first individual from the town of North Andover has now approached the microphone at the select board meeting last week. And here, Canton, here we come, Canton 2.0, here we go. You know, and all of a sudden the select boards now are going to be weekly events. And then I'm now going to start broadcasting because I want to hear what those people in that town have to say. And I don't know if that town is going to cover that or look into that effectively. I don't know if they're going to let the trial pan out. I don't know what kind of investigation they're going to do. But it could be something now where you start to have people coming to the microphone week in and week out. And before you know it, you know, 80% or more of the people that are speaking during public comment are talking about that, you know, except for maybe the one guy last week that had other things to talk about, you know, other matters that he was there for. You know, a true townsman was the first guy that spoke. He had, you know, just things he wanted to talk about in town. The next person, not so much. We got a super chat here. Stan with Mel. Thank you, Stan with Mel. Why would he be living there if he is afraid of Kelsey and what she will do? She says he is a punk who is used to doing and saying whatever, and people believe him. I know it does sound kind of similar to other people we've seen in other towns and other cases with a sense of entitlement. I know one of the people that was related to the McAlberts was actually involved in a home vandalizing a home with a bunch of other kids. And I don't think anything ever came of that. I remember Turtle Boy releasing that article. But there was vandals, and one of them was tied to the McAlberts, and nothing ever came of it. So there's always that out there as well. So yeah, I would say, yeah, why would he still be living there? Why would he still be claiming to live there? And then the defense's point, to your point as well, what about the fact that he had signed information that was presented by the defense that showed he lived elsewhere, or stated that he lived elsewhere in the town of Stowe? These are all big questions. Stan with Mel, thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you for tuning in as well. But yeah, these are things that I'm wondering as well. Again, I'm speculating, but this is a lot of scenarios. I'm trying to, yeah, that's right. It was the house with the rabbit. Yeah, it was the rabbit story. I remember the rabbit story. Yeah. That was a sickening story, to say the least. Yeah. But yeah, I just again, if you're dating someone, or you're not married or something, and you're staying over their house for 2 months, and it's technically where you're home away from home, you don't technically live there. You have to be permitted to be there. And that's really where this all comes down to, is you have to technically legally live there. And if that's not documentable, and I wouldn't know what documents they would have that they're claiming they have to say that he lived there, if his name's not on the deed, and signing something and simply saying you live there is not sufficient. So, if he lives with his folks still, and that Stowe is still his, if that's what's on his driver's license, that's what's wherever, then that's, people can have more than one address. But again, it's like if you own two homes, say you own a home in Stowe and one in North Andover, your name would typically be on both. You just can't say, well, I live here and I live, I can't say I live where I live. And then, you say, okay, well, I'm living with my girlfriend, fiance up in, Leominster or Winchester or something, and, Gloucester or Springfield or something. You can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say, oh, well, I have a girlfriend down in Fall River or down in, Rhode Island or something. I don't know. But it's just, it's you just can't make those claims. You just can't get up there and just say, oh, well, my girlfriend lives here, or my ex-fiance lives here, so I live there too. No, I don't care if she has a house in Quincy and you have a house in Leominster or Worcester or something. It doesn't make a difference. If Foxborough, wherever, Sharon, I don't know, wherever, it don't matter. It just, you have to actually legally live there, and that's what the defense is going to argue all the way through and through. So we'll see. We will see. So those are my thoughts on that. But again, obviously, if you have to go to NBC 10, if your PR team's telling you maybe we should just have them go to NBC 10, that's damage control right there. And it's damage control because there's a bad visual. And there's a bad visual that you want changed. That's all I have to say about that. So, okay. So we're going to go through the timeline today, which is the portion of what this show is about. So basically today is a show that I've wanted to do for quite some time. Here we go. Bottom line, his name is not on the deed of the house. And that is the bottom line. Agree. Even in an apartment, you have to be on the lease. Have a great day, Brett. Thank you. Let me reward that. If he receives mail there, he is a resident. But he signed an affidavit saying he didn't, so it wouldn't matter where his mail was delivered. Fair enough. KY Maverick says, just 3 days after he obtained a restraining order, he forced entry into the same home with 3 others, contradicting a sworn affidavit. So it's, again, the affidavit's going to be argued here through and through, to say the least. So, and then Andrea Stewie says, there's nothing he can do to change that bad visual. No normal person will believe he did anything legal or in good faith. He is pathetic. We all see it. Yeah, and I think too, on top of that, is just all the other things. Even if he did have the legal right to be in the house for whatever reason, what about all the other things that Kelsey Fitzsimmons is alleging? All the other information that her and her defense team are providing that are showing, that he did other things as well. And again, at the end of the day, a breaking and entering might be the least of everything else. So there we go. One sec, guys. Just stand by for one moment. Okay, good. All right. So today's show, we're going to begin the formal portion of today's show. This is called The Timeline. So what we're going to do today in preparation of the upcoming trial is we're going to learn more about Kelsey Fitzsimmons today and her story, this case, her background, and all the events that have led up to this trial. And we're just going to basically use this as kind of an information session today to learn more. I'm going to be reading a page that I've only skimmed, and I'm going to just kind of do a study session, essentially live is what I want to do today. We're just going to learn as we go, and I feel like the best way to do this is together. So I'm not only educating myself, we're educating each other, and we're going to go through this whole thing today and just see what we can learn today, see if there's other things. Because a lot of people have questions, and I want to have those questions answered as well for myself, because sometimes, when you cover stories like this, I may know a lot about it, but I don't know everything. I don't know every detail, every fabric, everything inside and out. And for me, I want to make sure I'm as best educated as possible. Well, I do understand enough to have my thoughts on who is in the right and who is in the wrong. I do also want to make sure that I know a lot more information as well. A timeline is something I've wanted to do for a long, long time. And I have the information provided by Law Girls Not Attorneys to me to go over that information and start to break it down more and more as we go. Always be a learner. Always be willing to learn more than you know before. Never think you know everything. Always be willing to learn more is how I lead my life as well. And I hope everyone leads their life the same way. Always constantly be educating yourself, reevaluating your education, what you know, and constantly striving to be as more knowledgeable as possible. All right, so here we go. The new Denise. I don't get the joke. Can someone explain the only Denise joke I know is the Denise show on Adam Sandler and Saturday Night Live. He had the Denise show where every week he'd go on trying to get his ex-girlfriend back. And I think in one skit, Nicole Kidman showed up and he's like, the Denise show has been canceled. So yeah. All right. So let's go. I'm going to need the Denise joke explained. The new Denise. He says the new Denise, joking. I don't know what that joke means. So there we go. All right. Here we go. Oh, Jen's sister made the timeline. I don't know what this is all about. I don't know. I'm getting lost in the comments. Are throwing me off. Do not confuse Mazza. I say again, do not. Hey, it's Super April. What's going on? How you doing? A lot of Rat House Media people in the house today. The unimpeachable MazzaMedia. Thank you. Diane G's in the house. All right. Here we go. Oh, yeah. That Denise. Yep. Okay. All right. Now I get the joke. Got you. Yeah. Now I know exactly what we're talking about here. Okay. Now I'm back on board. I got so Kelsey Fitzsimmons minded. I forgot about that other stuff. Okay. Here we go. All right. Yes, I know. I remember that. Okay. Let's take a look here at the size. You're cute when you're confused. Just go with it. I don't know how much I can zoom this in here. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. All right. How's the viewing size here for everybody? How does this look for everybody? Should be readable. Looks pretty good to me. Let me just write the word good in the chat if you like the sizing of this. Looks perfect. Good. People watching on the phone might have a little bit of trouble, but it looks like everybody's good. Okay, good. People like the size of this. Okay, good. Good to hear. All right, good. All right, good. Thank you guys so much. All right, we'll take it from here. All right, so let's go through the timeline. So this webpage has all the information, all the data that you need. And let's go through it here. So, all right, the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case timeline. All right, Kelsey, this is about Kelsey's early life and education. So Kelsey grew up in Massachusetts in a family that later appears frequently in the record, including her mother, Lauren Page, and her stepfather. All right. Childhood friend Cassandra Mazzoni, almost close to Mazza, that name, reports that they have known each other since about age 5, were close through their teen years, and remained family friends after high school. Okay, so longtime friend. Cassandra recalls that in high school, Kelsey struggled at times with mental health, aggression, and alcohol use, and that Kelsey once punched one of Cassandra's friends without provocation. Now, let's break that down for a second. So this is information that could say, okay, this person has a violent history or an alcohol history. Okay, gotcha. However, a lot of kids when they grow up, I mean, here are my honest thoughts about mental health. I often think that mental health is not, someone says, oh, I have mental health issues. Well, my attitude towards that is everyone has bad days, bad weeks, bad months, stress, anxiety, depression, anger, rage. So mental health, is something that can be very common to just about every human being that isn't fully in Zen mode, or someone of just a higher understanding of life that lives like in a peaceful country where there's just you and nature all day long, probably doesn't have mental health, but mental health is common to everybody. I mean, every single person out there has anger, has depression, has sadness, has that. So yeah, struggling with mental health is nothing uncommon for any human being on the face of the earth, unless, of course, you're a master of Zen. So yeah, everybody has mental health struggles from time to time. Like anybody that lives in a state that the clocks are springing forward this month, but we all have clocks that fall back. Every year when the clocks fall back, I sit there and I'm like upset for like a week that it's getting dark out early and it's going to be winter. It's going to be cold and dark. Like I get depressed every year because of the seasonal change. I hate losing summer. I hate losing the early fall. I hate giving up the warm weather. I hate it. But then winter starts and after a week, I'm good. I enjoy it. I've had fun this winter with the snow. Not everybody has, but I have. But that's mental health happens. It happens. And for teenagers, mental health is probably the hardest to deal with as a teenager than at any other point in your life. The teenage years are extremely tough for everybody. Everyone, how many people do I know from high school? And I see them down the road and we'll talk about the old times and they'll immediately say, well, I'm not like that anymore. And I said, of course you're not. Of course you're not like that because you were 15. You were 15 years old. Now you're 38 and we're at our 20-year reunion. Now times have changed. I'm not going to hold you to what you were when you were 15, 16, or what you said and did when you were 15, 16, which is why there's a juvenile system. Not that that's what Kelsey was in, but I'm just saying that's why they send teens to juvie hall and they don't try them as adults, because as teenagers, you can have a tough time. You can act out in a way sometimes that's not, common, or necessarily not common, but, a little bit more intense than any other area of your life. So struggling with mental health as a teenager is not that big a deal. Aggression. I know for myself, I was as aggressive as I ever was in my life when I was in high school. I don't think this was diagnosed at all. I don't think so at all. So she struggled at times with mental health. What I'm saying is that mental health, especially as a teenager, is common. It's very common. Aggression. When I was a teenager, I was at the peak of my aggression as an athlete in school. I was very aggressive on the basketball court when I ran, when I played other sports. I was very, very aggressive at that age. So having aggression in high school is not uncommon. Everybody's at their athletic primes when you're in high school. That's not uncommon at all. Alcohol use. If anybody's ever seen a teenage movie, name them off. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Superbad, any other high school party movie. Teenagers drink alcohol. I remember having so many people around me that were at parties every single, weekend, that drank alcohol. So that's not uncommon. Alcohol use is common. Kelsey once punched one of Cassandra's friends without provocation. Okay. Fights happen in high school. Fights happen when you're a teenager. I'm not here to try to say her friend is wrong. I'm just here to say that, I don't think that, and some people might say, well, how can you say that punching somebody without being provoked is justifiable? Well, I'm not. But what I am saying is that it is behavior befitting of teenagers, that people as teenagers act differently than when they get older. People get in fights, spats. When I was in middle school, when I was in middle school in the 90s, sometimes our school felt like prison because it'd be a fight every single day. It would be a fight between, maybe not me, but, it'd be fights on the playground, fights in the cafeteria, fights in the classroom. Same thing in high school. Somebody got punched in the face. Somebody punched that person. There was a brawl here. These people got in a scuffle. That's all commonplace. So I'm not here to say whether or not that's, the party got busted. We're all going to the moon tower. All right. There's a new Fiesta in the mix as we speak. Funny movie. Dazed and Confused is a good one. But yeah, punches happen. Punches are thrown. So that, what I'm trying to say here is I don't think that any of this would be information relevant to try to justify a history of Kelsey's, to try to say, oh, Kelsey's had a history of this behavior. I think that mental health, aggression, alcohol use, and punching people is fairly common for teenagers, is what I'm trying to say. All right. Yeah, it's called being a teenager. It is. And again, I've seen many people, and I'll say this. I've seen many people I had confrontations with in high school. Okay. There was somebody in high school I had a massive confrontation with. And me and that guy stopped and talked to each other about 10 years ago and just shot the breeze about football for about 20 minutes one time outside of a store one year. Because it's not high school. Because time goes on. People, it's like Will Smith. He got one little fight. His mom got scared. And then one day he went back to Philadelphia, ran into the guy that spun him around and tried to fight the guy. And the guy's like, man, that was like 5 years ago. Stop it. We're all grown up now. You need to grow up too and forget about fights. Because you grow up. You grow up. I had many people, that I think didn't like me, run into them a couple years later, and we're talking like we're best friends. It happens. It's called being a teenager. It happens. So that's all I'm saying about that. Those are my thoughts. All right. After high school, they drifted somewhat, but Cassandra remained close enough to be asked to join Kelsey's bridal party years later. So that's going to have some relevance here. Okay, to the later story. All right. From 2010 to 2014, Kelsey attends Fisher College and studies criminal justice. She later graduates from Fisher College with a criminal justice degree. She graduated with honors, serving as president of the Criminal Justice Club, organizing on-campus events focused on domestic violence, suicide awareness, and fire safety. And she was inducted into a Criminal Justice Honors Society. So that right there tells you a lot of great things about Kelsey. That speaks to her intelligence, did a great job in college, graduated with honors. Even further, she was the president of the Criminal Justice Club. She was involved in organizing on-campus events that also included domestic violence. That tells you a lot about her background. That tells you some great things. She went through 4 years of college. She, was heavily involved. She was highly successful, and she did a great job. She graduated, all good things here. So after graduating, this is September 2015, Kelsey worked as a campus security at Fisher College, enforcing dorm policies and basic safety rules. Now, if you've ever been to college, you'll see two types of security there. It depends. You might have on-campus police, or you might have campus security. Now, a lot of people trying to get their police career going will start off as campus security. So this is a very, like right here in September 2015, this is exactly where you'd ideally want to start. Campus security, exactly. Can we all imagine everyone's teenage years being held to accounts of one's character in adult life? Exactly. So here we have the campus security start off. That's a great starting point. That's exactly where you want to start your career off. This will help you get a police job later in your life there, later in your career there. All right, so she did that. Then in December 2016, she worked as event security at Fenway Park, checking identification and screening fans. Good stuff to do there. Event security is fun. Obviously, you guys might have seen me at Foxborough Stadium doing event security back in 2002 for the Tuck Rule game, which was fun. Yeah, I know, but it's a good starting point to get your career, your policing career. You want to have something on your resume as well. So campus security is like a great way to get going. Get yourself something on your resume. You get the criminal justice degree, but you also got the campus security. So it's a good way to get your career moving forward. Event security at Fenway, again, good stuff. All right, so then we have a charge here. August 23rd, 2017, charges filed, consumption of alcohol under 21. This is New Hanover County in North Carolina. Now, let's be honest here. She got charged with alcohol consumption under 21 years old. Let's be honest. A lot of people under 21 years old drink. Anybody that's been in high school, college, or wherever, or has been at parties in their 20s or wherever, knows that people drink alcohol. This is not, again, moving forward. February 20th, 2018, offense and charges filed, possession of open container of alcohol in passenger area. This was disposed. All right. June 21st, 2018, again, New Hanover County, North Carolina, offense and charges filed. Deposed, sorry, that was how I said that. Let me just read this again. Sorry, I got lost. Charges filed for consumption of alcohol under age 21, possession of an open container of alcohol in passenger area, intoxicated and disruptive. And then, again, charge filed simple assault, charge filed criminal case. This is all, they got a misdemeanor here, deposed for these others here. So that's the background on that. Again, the age, drinking, everyone knows if you drink alcohol, sometimes you get a little bit rowdy as well. I'm not trying to be funny when I make that comment, but it's, it happens. It happens. And that's just what happens to people, unfortunately, throughout life. Sometimes you drink, things happen, you move forward. And again, I want to make a statement here. All of this right here that we're reading, none of this prevented her from getting a job as a police officer. I just want to make note of that. I want to make that extremely clear. None of this mattered because she became a police officer, and it doesn't matter. And if it doesn't matter that when she became a police officer, it does not matter. Court records later reference a prior out-of-state misdemeanor conviction. Court records later reference a prior out-of-state misdemeanor conviction described as an alcohol-related offense, intoxicated and disruptive. Prosecutors used this prior case in later bail proceedings to argue she has a history of problematic alcohol use. I just think that that's ridiculous that they would do that. But again, for prosecutors, yeah, exactly. Charges, not convictions. Charges, not convictions. Exactly, Broken Baker. Exactly. And to that point, they try to use this against her, the prosecutors. Oh, well, she has a history of it. As far as I'm concerned, if I read this under the age of 21, to me, that bears, even if I go as high as 25, so long as these are all minor stuff, which is all it is. This is not stuff that's a big deal at all. This is all, who cares? You know, like, honestly, who cares? Quite honestly, who cares? She does a Methuen Police Department internship in May of 2019. Again, nice way to build the career up. You know, campus security at Fisher College, gets this Methuen Police Department internship. And it shows you, I mean, when you get out of college in 2014, it shows you, you know, the amount of time you need to put in to become a cop. You know, campus security for a couple of years, event security at Fenway, internship at Methuen Police Department. And again, she probably had to, explain all this stuff. And they're like, okay, cool. No worries. You know, it happens to a lot of people. You'd be shocked, you know, we just, you know, nothing crazy. Again, not convicted. So here you go. You know, very nice internship there. All right. Let me get a drink of water before we move on to this decade. So again, nothing major here. You know, just things the prosecutors are going to use to try to make a big deal out of it. All right. Let me take a look at the chat, see if there's any comments to read for me. Okay, good. We're good to go. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for tuning in today. We're just refreshing ourselves. How many people have drinking alcohol, driven while intoxicated, and they haven't got caught? You know, they like to say, you know, the crime is not that you got caught, but the crime itself, which is, no, it's really that you got caught. When you think about, you know, how many people are out there drinking and driving at Saturday night, people are going to be drinking and driving tonight. You know, sometimes it's just that you got caught. You know, yeah, filings don't even show up on background checks. So, yeah, if that's the case, then, you know, maybe she didn't even have to even bring it up for all we know. Don't know. All right, Jen Fox, what's going on? Yeah, she's had a great path to becoming a police officer. I mean, yeah, has anybody ever gone on spring break? Exactly. That's coming up soon, I think. All right, April 2020, Lisa and Doug, Alien, Kelsey's fiance's parents, peer facilitators for the Hudson chapter of Learn to Cope, supported families of individuals struggling with addiction during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I think this is going to take me right to that page. Yeah, I think that's the exact page that had been found about them. All right, so that's her, Justin's parents. They're peer facilitators for the Hudson chapter of Learn to Cope, and they supported families of individuals struggling with addiction during the COVID-19 pandemic. As lockdowns created new barriers to treatment, they helped overwhelmed families navigate remote civil commitment processes, disrupted support meetings. Okay, yeah, it just sounds the way that's worded. It just sounds weird to me. Disrupted support meetings. Is that a typo, maybe? Oh, okay. I was misreading. Okay, because the COVID-19 support meetings were disrupted during COVID, so they had to do. Okay, they had to do remote. Okay, they navigated remote civil commitment processes due to disrupted support meetings and reduced access to treatment programs. Okay, I get it now. It took me a minute to understand that. Just COVID is kind of far gone in my head now. It reduced access to treatment programs. Okay, I see what they did. Okay, so mostly remote. They continued advocating strongly for addiction support services and protections for vulnerable individuals despite the challenges created by the pandemic. Okay, makes sense. All right. Now, May 2020, Kelsey graduates college. Okay, so maybe let's see here. 2010 to 2014, she graduated with honors from Fisher College. Okay, so she must have went to a graduate program. Okay, so she graduated college here in May 2020. Okay. Okay. Now law school. Okay, 2020 to 2021. During pandemic-related shutdowns, Kelsey enrolls in law school. All right, after completing her first year, she decides law is not the right long-term career path and returns to focusing on law enforcement work. But I'll say this, doesn't hurt to go to law school for even a bit and get some understanding of the law, even though you don't get, even though you didn't complete it. So it is good to sit on a lot of those classes and get, more education on the law. So that's good news. Stan with Mel sends a super chat. Thank you. Second one today from you, Stan with Mel. Thank you very much. So if you believe Justin, then he is more stupid than I thought. He broke the door to his own home. That is like spitting on your own floor. Yeah, exactly. And to my point, too, why would the father, Kelsey's father, change the locks if he lived there? I mean, if he lived there, why would the locks be changed? Why would that? I mean, obviously the father changed the locks because he felt that nobody lived there but Kelsey, and he was trying to keep people out that don't live there. So that's very notable. But I like that. He would have, if he did live there, he broke down the door to his own home. It's like spitting on your own floor. Yeah, exactly. I see Sleuthy Goosey's with us today. Good afternoon. The Glare has just arrived. He says, sup, sup. Glare is in the house. Yeah, it's just, it don't make sense at all. All right, we're going to move ahead here. All right. So law school. And again, she was in law school and decided it was not the right path for herself, so she returned to law enforcement. All right. June 2020, she attends night classes while working full-time as a paralegal. That's good. That's good. And also, Courtney Healy is a paralegal. So I noticed that Courtney and Kelsey have really bonded, similar to Karen and Eliza Little did. And I like that. And I wonder if the paralegal history between both of them was kind of one of the identifying factors that they could relate to each other on. And some people often become friends. Feminem, how are you doing? Hope you're doing good today. I wonder if that kind of helped them become close as well with the similarities. August 13th, 2021, Justin attended the Career Firefighter Recruit Training Program at the Massachusetts Fire Academy in Stowe, Massachusetts. He entered the program as a credentialed emergency medical technician and a United States Army veteran. So Army career. So obviously for a few years there, served in the Army. And then must have been a medic. He entered the program as a credentialed EMT. He must have got his credentials while in the Army. He must have been a medic, I'm guessing. At the time of the reference, firefighter in training, Justin was completing his initial in-house training phase with field deployment and additional operation training to follow. Now, a lot of people point out I didn't know he was an EMT. I just knew he was a firefighter. I didn't know he was an EMT. And there's a lot of people arguing the fact that he ran out of the house when the shots were fired. And then EMT, the police officers had to render aid to Kelsey, and he ran out of the house. And he's a credentialed EMT. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess all firefighters are essentially credentialed in that area. But still, to run out of the house, that's what a lot of people are arguing. His ability to help somebody in a situation such as being shot, he would be a vital person to help out. But again, it's stated that he fled the house. That is what's being stated. So he had a credentialed EMT. He was a credentialed EMT. And if you're in the Army, I'm sure that gunfire wouldn't faze you either. He also drives an ambulance as well. Got you. Okay, makes sense to me. All right. Little details here that I'm learning as I go. This is another reason why I want to do this show today, because there's a lot of things that I don't know everything about. I never do my shows claiming to know everything, and it's good to know. And plus, what's great is you have people like Common Sense Investigator, things I may not know that can also fill me in on data as well. I want to make sure we're always as educated as possible. Thank you guys for that information, Lauren. Thank you. So he had all this background here. Successful background. This is a good career path. EMT, United States Army, firefighter. This is good. If you're a career person, having the military and all, that's a good career. So both Justin and her had very successful careers up till, the saga that has unfolded. September 2021, Kelsey Fitzsimmons began her career in public safety as a correctional officer with the Essex County Sheriff's Department, where she worked for just over 2 years beginning in September 21. So again, moving up in her career, campus security, paralegal, event security, other factors as well. Then a correctional officer with Essex County. Now, Essex County, of course, as you know, is prosecuting her. So that's other interesting stuff. Okay. Now, she worked there for just over 2 years, beginning in September 2021. All right. Now, April 8th, 2022, Justin graduated from the Massachusetts Fire Academy as a part of Recruit Class 300 of Career Recruit Training of the Career Recruit Training Program. He was formally recognized and congratulated as he began serving the residents of North Andover. His career serving the residents of North Andover, which is what is one of the contentions at last week's select board meeting, is that he is an individual who serves the residents of North Andover, and the residents of North Andover, at least the one that spoke, has questions and concerns about the allegations that he broke and entered into a home. So those are things that are going to start. You might even see it at the select board Monday, where there are questions raised about a public servant, being alleged of breaking and entering into a home. So we're going to look to see how that develops in the town of North Andover. So that was April 8th. As of April 15th, 1 week later, Justin graduated from the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy as a part of Class 300 after completing the 50-day Career Recruit Firefighting Training Program. He was officially certified to the level of Firefighter 1 and 2 and Hazardous Materials First Responder Operational Level, meeting National Fire Protection Association 1001 standards. He received an official citation recognizing his accomplishment, presented on behalf of State Senator Bruce Tarr and State Senator Diana DiZoglio. A month later, on September 12, 2022, he completed his 1-year probationary period with the North Andover Fire Department. He was officially sworn in by the Fire Chief, John Weir, and the town clerk. Following the ceremony, he was formally pinned with his firefighter badge as a full-status firefighter as well as EMT. So again, any information you guys need, there it is. Full service, full status firefighter and EMT. That tells you a big thing right there, ladies and gentlemen. That he, again, was also an EMT. When the shooting happened, he left the house. And that's what stated. He left the house and did not assist Kelsey in having aid rendered to her. I think I got to maybe ask Nurse Kim this. I think if you're a medical professional and there's an incident, I think you're obligated to assist. That might be a great question for Nurse Kim to ask her what she might be able to answer to that. That might be a great question for her. I'd like to actually, that's one of those times I wish Nurse Kim was on the program right now. Hey, Lauren, I think you got Nurse Kim on tomorrow. We should make a note of that. And we should ask Nurse Kim that tomorrow if she's going to be on your show. I think that's something I want to, I just want to know what the, I believe you'd be obligated to have to render aid. So we'll see. But Nurse Kim will be able to better answer. Yeah, she's away. Yeah, she's away. Okay. Yeah. That's just interesting. They take an oath. Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Yeah, it's a great question for Kim. That's right. There's an oath they have to take, something of that nature. Right. He is obligated. So people are saying it right here. There must be medical personnel watching the show right now. It could be these folks that are answering right now. You have an oath. Exactly. Oh, she's out of town this weekend? Okay, yeah, there's an oath. Yeah, so there you have it. So that we already have our answer. So there we go. Some of these folks in the chat must be medical. There has to be at least, a couple nurses or possibly doctors, medical staff. Here we go. My daughter's a nurse. And Tracy, I think, already answered to this question maybe above. They take an oath. So Tracy's daughter is a nurse. And okay, good. Okay. All right, we got Emily C tomorrow. That's good to know. Emily C, love her. I saw the Emily C video of her teaching kids in school. I love the video. Just a great personality for that teaching job Emily C has. Just definitely, just exactly. It's good. It's good to see people that have the right personality and then the right job for that personality. And Emily C, just being a teacher of younger kids, is just a great video to watch. Enjoyed just seeing her, just enjoying her job. Very positive person, and all about Kelsey's innocence and Karen's innocence and Aiden's innocence. Right, there's a moral obligation. Exactly. All right, moving along. Kelsey Fitzsimmons on June 7, 2023, became the sole legal owner. Okay, so this is establishing residency. Legal owner of 125 Phillips Brooks Road in North Andover via the quitclaim deed, which we saw published this week, recorded in the Essex County North Registry of Deeds, book 17,779, page 234. Yeah, okay. So that establishes residency. I missed it. What's this comment here? Sorry. Just reading some of the jokes. Okay. All right, we'll continue forward. We got some nurse jokes here. All right. So shortly after receiving this title of being the owner, she obtained a $388,000 mortgage on the property from Cambridge Trust Company. Okay, very good. Then 3 months later, September 2023, North Andover firefighter Justin meets Kelsey. All right, so they meet, and obviously, both being public servants, firefighter, police officer, there's more than ample opportunity for them to run into one another. And Becky RN says she never took an oath as a nurse. All right. So they have now met as of September 2023. Now, in May of 2024, the North Andover Police Academy, Kelsey graduates from the North Andover Police Department, where she served as a class treasurer. There's a source on that. After graduation, she becomes a sworn North Andover police officer. Again, this is May 2024. Chief Gray and the entire police department staff would like to welcome new officers. This is from the source. Kelsey Fitzsimmons and Kyle Hooley to the department after they graduated from the 5th recruit office class of the NECC Police Academy today. It was a 6-month training academy on the job training. Will continue for another few months before going on their own. Lieutenant Daly and Officer Gordon were also staff instructors for their academy class. So basically what that means, they'll be on the job training for another few months before going out on their own. So typically I'm believing that understands that they probably are out assigned with a veteran cop at that point, and they basically are working in a duo for a couple months on their own, getting some experience. I know in the Los Angeles Police Department, they have officers called Officer 3 and Officer 1, and Officer 3 is a veteran cop that's a trainer, field trainer. A field trainer cop is basically with Officer 1s that are new. Officer 1s sit with Officer 3s and get a feel for the life of a Los Angeles officer. So that's kind of very common to have you sit with another cop. So it's good training. It's good training. That says Lieutenant Daly and Officer Gordon were also staff instructors for their academy class. You guys obviously recognize that name right there. May 6, 2024, swearing-in day at Town Hall for Kelsey Fitzsimmons and Officer Cooley. On September 12, 2024, the North Andover Police Department recognized female officers, including Kelsey Fitzsimmons. The story says, today, on National Police Women's Day, we would like to proudly recognize these 5 women in our department. Sergeant Katie Gerke. Will be some information. Might be some information on her on this one because she's had some issues with that police department. Katie Gerke, Julie Nigro, and Lauren Jimenez, Stephanie Rizzo, and Officer Kelsey Fitzsimmons. They all demonstrate leadership and a strong desire to help citizens and visitors of the town of North Andover each and every day. They are also excellent role models for the youth of our town and build lasting relationships between the department and the community. Thank you for your service. Can someone do me a quick favor? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be asking favors. Let me look it up myself. No, I shouldn't be asking favors. I should be doing it myself. Do it yourself, MazzaMedia. I just want to look at that witness list for a second. I'm just thinking about the chief of police because I didn't think to look this up. Sean Daly's on the witness list, obviously. Noonan, Houston, Daly are obviously on it. What I'm curious about is the chief. Stephanie Rizzo is on the witness list from that list of female officers we just read off. Charles Gray is on the witness list. Okay, I didn't look for that last night. I was more focused on the officers that went in the house on that list yesterday, and I was more focused on, of the people that entered that home on July 3rd, which of them were on that list, but I hadn't focused on the police. Okay, so Charles Gray is on the witness list, and Stephanie Rizzo, who's mentioned as one of the female officers in that town, is on this witness list. Now, I wonder if that's a selection by the defense. I wonder if she might be, maybe they might be going in a direction where they want to know about the treatment of female officers in that department. Maybe they want to ask her potentially about, that, because there's been issues with women in the police department in that town, at least two of them. Gerke, I remember. The other name escapes me right now. But there were two women in that police department that had issues with the North Andover Police Department. One of them was with Kathy Gerke, to my understanding. I want to see if I can find that article. One sec. Katie Gerke. Yeah. Kathy Gerke came to a settlement and mediation with former assistant town manager and chief of police Charles Gray. I wonder if this article is still there. She was the whistleblower in that town. I don't think this will let me read the article anymore without subscribing. Yeah. But yeah, she was involved in that. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, that was Kathy. Okay, that was her. And it's interesting, Stephanie Rizzo's listed. I'm just curious in what capacity there is a what I'm wondering if this is she's being called by the defense specifically. That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering right now. Okay. They all demonstrate leadership, role models. Thank you for your service, they say. Okay, now we're from September. Now we're moving to October 2024. Kelsey and Justin get engaged on October 10th, 2024. Their wedding date is set for October 4th, 2025. So again, as we know, they would have been married in the time between now and the time of the incident on June 30th. November 2024, month after engagement, Justin says Kelsey's behavior becomes increasingly erratic. Her emotions are unstable. She becomes both physically and verbally abusive towards him. He repeatedly tries to remain calm and de-escalate conflict. She becomes pregnant with their child. Well, I mean, I don't know if the women that are tuning into the show right now want to speak to the changes in behavior when it comes to pregnancy. I don't know if I want to just say this here, but wouldn't we agree that when you become pregnant and you are pregnant, that there's a change in behavior? Jess, one of the mods is here. Good to see you. Wouldn't you guys agree? That there's going to be a behavior? Come on. And Dizzy says hormones can make us a little crazy. If she's pregnant, guess what? That's probably why her behavior is becoming increasingly erratic. Her emotions are unstable. Claims of physical and verbal abuse. That's all. Yeah, it's called hormones. Hormonal. Rhonda says yes. This is all. Kelly, who's pregnant now, definitely a change in behavior. She cried over green beans last week for an hour. So there you have it. Crying over green beans, not that uncommon, Kelly. I'm sure most women have cried over green beans from one time or another. It happens. But I hope you get your green beans. Maybe you were, now I'm curious. Did you want to have green beans, but they were not in the house? Or were the green beans not cooked in a timely manner? So I wonder. That's okay. But no, Kelly, thank you for sharing that. Congratulations on your pregnancy, and all the best to you when you give birth to your child. Congratulations. That's great news. I'm happy for you. That's great news. Bonnie goes, being pregnant's another side effect. So again, we have more than enough female viewers right now that are here that can attest to the behavior change. So that's, again, common stuff here. Common stuff. Get Kelly her green beans. Kelly says, I didn't want to snap off the ends of the green beans. Okay. That's good. Bonnie was carrying triplets, she said. Congratulations to you, Bonnie, in the time. That's awesome, having 3 kids. Lisa says, this idiot has no idea what puking and crying are when pregnant. Sexy body gets all out of whack. You are bringing up great topic, Mazza. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. All right. Hey, you know what? Green beans. Green beans are underrated. I like my green beans with whipped butter specifically. I like whipped butter on green beans. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you have plenty of women in our program right now that are tuning in. That can say, hey, when you're pregnant, it's erratic. If you get a little erratic there, it happens. It's called being a female who is pregnant. She became pregnant with their child. So I just feel like, that's another thing too, that if this ever comes up, in court, it's just, hey, she's pregnant. Now, as soon as I was reading this, I'm like, I hadn't seen this part yet, but as soon as I was reading this, I'm like, wasn't she pregnant around this time? You know what I mean? It's called, natural behavior for the female body when pregnant. All natural, all natural tendency changes. So that's all natural stuff. Okay, mid-2024, critical call involving the mother and infant. I think this might mean mid. Why is this going backwards in time here? This skips ahead. Here. Okay, so it goes from October to November. Now we're going to mid-2024. Why is this all out of line here? Now it's going back to 2024. Okay, I don't know why, but let's see why they put it in this order, unless they did it by accident. Mid-2024, critical call involving mother and infant. Okay, this is now the background. Okay, this is the story here with Noonan and Kelsey. Okay. In mid-2024, Kelsey and Officer Patrick Noonan, and as you guys know, Patrick Noonan is the officer that shot her, respond together to a murder-suicide involving a mother and infant. Kelsey later says she is approximately 20 weeks pregnant at this time. She describes this as a devastating call. Yeah, this pregnancy with her child should be further up on this timeline, in my opinion. I think that she's already 20 weeks pregnant as of mid-2024. She gave birth to the child in February. So 9 months is what? 7 months. The 9 months, 2 months in 2025 minus 7 months. So May, maybe as far back as May 2024. So they arrived to this murder-suicide scenario here, incident, involving a mother and infant. Kelsey later says she's approximately 20 weeks pregnant at the time. She describes this as a devastating call. She says this incident, especially seeing an infant with a gunshot wound, is a major factor in the development of her later mental health problems and intrusive thoughts. Okay. Now, again, PTSD for police officers. This is all information from a website called crimetimelines.com. This is a timeline summary that we're reading here. We're going right off this webpage. I think this thing is just basically my understanding of this whole entire page right here is that this is a mix. This is the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case files for missing and endangered. If you have any information concerning anyone on this page, please contact, boom, boom, boom. Crime Timelines is free for everybody. Essentially, these people just organize information and assemble it together. And then it grabs from source material. So they might have Kelsey graduates college, source. So it's basically an assembled thing. Now it's not necessarily, dot for dot in terms of, everything that's here is actually in a document. Everything that's being stated here is not necessarily a part of the trial. It's essentially assembly of information. So if you're thinking that this is going to be a web page that has, this is just more for, yeah, exactly. This is just more like a timeline of events is what this is about. It's not necessarily like your nuts and bolts. Every piece of information you're reading here is going to be a part of the case. No, this is not that. It may link to certain sources like that, but essentially this is more like a rundown list. So today's show is more for like the historic rundown of things that happened, things that transpired, and not necessarily the court document, not charges, that's not what today's show is about. That's not what this website's about. Mr. Monk's study is saying this website is heavily pro-Justin. It is a lot of non-facts, but opinions that make Kelsey look terrible, especially in Maine. I definitely think this website is from Justin's APR. I have no way of telling you who has orchestrated this website, but I will tell you, I'm not seeing this necessarily as, I understand what you're saying, but I don't see this website. I understand. Yeah. It's important to note, Kelsey responded alone to that scene, and the Merton Weber was a knife. Okay. But I don't, to Mr. Monk's understudy's point, I don't necessarily think that this is, I think this is, I don't know. I just don't see it like that bias. I don't think it's bias at all. In my opinion, I think that they're trying to just talk about different perspectives. That's how I'm seeing this. I'm not necessarily reading this, and I know you and perhaps others might be starting to see it that way, but I'm not. I understand interpretation is different, but I'm just not seeing it that way as well. Just my thoughts on that. Continuing on here. So it says, Kelsey and Officer Noonan respond together to a murder-homicide. Kelsey later says she's 20 weeks pregnant. She described this as a devastating call. She says, this incident, especially seeing an infant with a gunshot wound, is a major factor in the development of related mental health problems and intrusive thoughts. On October 11, 2024, toward the end of the Croatia trip, Kelsey allegedly refused to engage with anyone. When Justin attempted to discuss behavior concerns, Kelsey allegedly slapped him on the back. Someone says it does seem a little biased towards Justin. And I'm not trying to justify the website, but I am going to say this. It could be just speaking more towards Kelsey because she is the one, it is Kelsey Fitzsimmons' case. They could be just trying to speak towards everything that led up to it. That's just my opinion. But again, everybody has the right to interpret it. So I'm just giving my thoughts. I don't want to come off as like defensive about it, but when attempted towards the end of the Croatia trip, Kelsey allegedly refused to engage with anybody. I wish they gave us more background on who was on that trip. When Justin attempted to discuss behavior concerns, Kelsey allegedly slapped him on the back. The filing states Kelsey later allegedly threatened to walk off the edge of a waterfront and harm herself. Again, unfounded information. Again, it says the filing states. But, it's all he said, she said. This is stuff I think will be quickly, if it's even brought up by the prosecution, what's the relevance? She allegedly threatened to walk off the edge of a waterfront and harm herself. Where's that information? So I can see where people are kind of getting a little bit in the chat here questioning this website. But I'm going to continue forward. This is my plan of attack for today's show. We can rip apart the website if we need to as we go. No problems at all. All right. This is October 12th, 2024. I'm going to get a drink of water. After returning home from the trip, tension allegedly escalated. Now, this website, up to this website's credit, they are using the word allegedly quite a bit here. Kelsey allegedly began screaming. Tension allegedly escalated. So after returning home from the trip, tension allegedly escalated. Kelsey allegedly began screaming and crying. I just want to note here, she's also pregnant. She allegedly broke picture frames, slammed doors, damaged walls, and punched kitchen doors and cabinets. Now, I would say this. It says allegedly. Now, I would ask, if this happened, you know, I would like to see pictures of this. Where are the pictures of the broken frames? Slam door is obviously not going to happen. Where are the pictures of the broken walls? Is there any damage to kitchen doors and cabinets? So I asked myself, you know, blah, blah, blah. Where is it? Where is it? And this is also coming up here. Where are the videos of all these negative things that happened to Justin by her? Exactly. Where is it? If the allegation is in the court docs, it goes on the website. That's what Sleuthie Goosey, are you I know you said something earlier. You said, what did you say in the comment? I think you said, okay. Sleuthie Goosey knows a bit about this website. So she says she puts everything in there no matter how it looks for whoever. Can't assure y'all she doesn't care about Justin or even really Kelsey. She just puts up what she finds. The interpretation is up to you. Okay, so Sleuthie Goosey is stating here that she's aware of this website, and she said she's my friend. So I think she's referring to the person that creates this website. Okay, because there's been some questions asked, and like anything, you know, that's Irina's website. Okay, so Sleuthie Goosey is in the chat right now. She's giving us some information here on this. Okay. Okay, that's good. This is bearing some water here. Okay, the website creator is here in the chat. Okay, good, because there's some questions that have been asked, and you know, now we're getting some more verification of this website. Because when I was given this website, I was ensured it was legitimate. Okay. Oh, okay. Irina DNI is here. Okay, so Irina DNI. Okay, this is the person that has put this together. Okay, perfect. All right, they are with us today. Fantastic. Thank you, guys, she says. And let's see if there's any other comments. Okay, I am not sure. Okay, so Irina DNI, who made this website, is here. She says, I'm not sure where you see the website being pro-Justin. It's a copy of the records, nothing from me. Okay. So, and then someone says, Irina is totally independent, and if anything is more Kelsey leaning, at least X is that way. She's a wealth of knowledge. Okay. So that's what we got. Now we got more information. I'm glad Irina's here. Thank you for joining us, Irina. We're using your website today to go over information. So this is very helpful to have. So, okay, that answers a lot of questions for us. So that's good. We had some questions raised in the comments. We also have people that have information on who created the website, the ideology of the creator, Irina, and now we have more verification of the ideology of the website to know that it's not done with any level of biasness, which is good. There were some concerns raised, and we've also had a little bit more validity brought to this website as to how the information is assembled. Sleuthie Goosey says, Irina beats me when I get far off into speculation. She's also extremely fact-driven. Irina DNI says, all of the records are attached and all of the sources are referenced. I agree. That information is throughout this website. So this is October 12, 2024, where we're leaving off. She lists a lot of sources on this website, web archives, other pages as well. The National Andover Police Department, other sources here, other information. It's sourced quite a bit throughout this as well. And then also on this website, there's a lot of documents, tons of PDFs here, all over the place are attached to this page. So this is kind of, then she says, other evidence here. And then this is why I use this website, because when I looked at it, I felt that it was pretty well layered with validations, pretty careful with the, you know, when it made allegations, it said allegedly. So that's why I picked this website too. So again, I'm using this more for just the timeline of information. So I understand people have more of a technicality-based argument, but I'm more into this for the timeline of events more than anything today. That's what I'm in this for today. All right, let's get back to October 2024. All right. All right, good. All right, Irina says the following. Irina DNI says, if there are any corrections, please let me know and I'll take care of it. All right. All right. Sounds good to me. All right, good. All right, we'll continue on here. We can always debate these corrections together as we go. All right. This is the trip. Tensions. Okay, so she broke things. Then Justin says Justin allegedly attempted to physically restrain her to stop the destruction. Kelsey allegedly bit Justin in the arm and had enough to break hard enough to break the skin. He then called 911. Police responded and transported Kelsey to the emergency room, where the filing states she was reportedly placed on psychiatric hold. All right. From here, February 16th is the birth date of her child in early 2025. All right. After 2020, into 2025, postpartum depression diagnosis. After childbirth, Kelsey experiences serious emotional and psychological difficulties. She is diagnosed with postpartum depression. In later statements, she says she acknowledged her diagnosis from the very beginning. She immediately sought treatment and followed medical advice. Now, this is a big part here because Kelsey readily admits to this after the incident in June. You know, she says, hey, look, you know, postpartum depression. You know, I had postpartum depression. That's one of the arguments that's used. You know, postpartum depression. And she also says that in correlation with the fact that she had suicidal tendencies, not homicidal tendencies in the home when that incident took place. All right. She immediately sought treatment and followed medical advice. On March 9th, or in 2025, obviously, during the child's christening party, Kelsey allegedly became allegedly became verbally aggressive and escalating. She allegedly broke picture frames and damaged walls. Again, I ask to anyone making this claim, as Irene says here, is it Irina or Irene? Let's see. Irina. Okay, it was the DNI that was throwing me off. If she allegedly broke picture frames and damaged walls, I asked those that are making these allegations to provide that. Just like the defense, who alleges that Kelsey's home was broken into, provided video to show that that house was accessed. They had video footage to stand with their allegation. If she allegedly broke picture frames and damaged walls, where is that information? Or will it be presented in court? And again, postpartum depression would be a verifiable reason. Justin allegedly attempted to de-escalate while holding the baby. And this is, again, every situation here always makes Kelsey, and this is not reflective of Irina writing this, it's more reflective of documents that have come out. It always seems like, you know, he attempted to de-escalate while holding the baby. It's like, you know, again, pinning him in a good light. Kelsey allegedly did this. You know, a struggle allegedly occurred in the kitchen as Justin attempted to leave with the child. Kelsey's parents arrived during the incident. Kelsey allegedly tried to forcibly remove the baby from Justin's arms. Again, all allegedly. Police, North Andover Police, responded to Kelsey Fitzsimmons' home at 125 Philip Brooks Road for a report of a female having a mental health episode. Irina, are you able to get sources for this stuff as well and add that to the website just so we have a reference point? Just on some of the things like this, for example, when something like this happens, is there, you know, a doc to reference to so we can see if, like, you know, if something like this is stated, can we see like where that links back to? Okay, great. Yeah, if you can, those would be great ads for the website, just to have that information sourced so we can always go to that exact document every time we see an allegation such as this one. And it's just, you know, just because a lot of people are, you know, Kelsey disputes it in a filing and wants to litigate it. Good. Letters in the records section, but I can add source to that. That'd be good. That'd be great, Irina. Thank you so much. That will be, the website's fantastic, but this will even more, we'll iron it out even more, which would be great. Thank you, Irina. Appreciate it. And we're appreciative of you putting this together. I wanted to put some of this together myself. I don't have the time and the access to all the data to ever put this together, which is why I'm utilizing this website. Okay, so these are the allegations. And again, Kelsey allegedly tried to forcibly remove the baby from Justin's arms. The cops respond for a report of a female having a mental health episode. She is found in the house and is willing to go to the hospital. Medical responders allegedly told Kelsey she needed to be evaluated and transported. Kelsey allegedly agreed to the hospital transport. Kelsey was transported to Lawrence General Hospital, where she was held on a Section 12 order for mental health issues and diagnosed with postpartum depression. So that's, I mean, given what happened on June 30th, all this information happening is more favorable towards her because it validates her argument of her timeline of events inside the house on June 30th. You know, she says, hey, this all happened because of postpartum depression, yet here's a Section 12 order from March 9th stating mental health issues and being diagnosed with postpartum depression, then, you know, that's documentable, which is good because, again, that goes in line with her side of the story. You know, all that stuff. So the hospitalization later features heavily, right. This hospitalization later features heavily in court filings and media coverage. Again, that favors Kelsey in her defense of herself because it is documented, which is good. When she says, hey, look, I had postpartum depression, I had suicidal tendencies on June 30th, I did not try to shoot Officer Noonan, there's information here that will back it right up. It's in court filings, there's media coverage references. After evaluation and treatment, doctors conclude she no longer meets criteria for involuntary confinement, right? So that means she can go home. So the next day, March 10th, Fitzsimmons is discharged from the hospital and voluntarily contacted the North Andover Police Department to turn over her personal and department-issued firearms according to court documents. She is discharged with an outpatient from the hospital with an outpatient treatment plan and continues working towards stability. 3 days later, on March 13th, North Andover Police Department suspends her gun permit suspends her gun permit after the department determined she was unsuitable to carry a weapon. About this time, she's placed on administrative leave. Okay, so all this happened, and then they suspend her gun permit, unsuitable to carry a weapon. About this time, she's placed on administrative leave. Okay, that we know. And good point here. She took leave and turned over her firearms voluntarily. She went by the book. A Section 12 is a 72-hour hold, but Kelsey was only there from 10 to 12 hours. Let's read. There's some comments here. They basically want you to source every line like I do in the spreadsheets. I think some of the people in the comments she's referring to. Letters in the record section, but I can add source to that. LMP has an opinion here. Honestly, it comes off as Justin using the baby as a human shield, just my opinion. Yeah, perfect. All right. All right, so this is administrative leave takes place March 6th. Fitzsimmons filed a petition appealing North Andover Police Department Chief Charles Gray's decision to suspend her gun permit. She argues it was revoked due to a 12-hour mental health-related hospitalization, according to court documents. In the spring of 2025, there's a rising relationship conflict. Kelsey attempts to resume normal life as a new mother and police officer. Relationship tension with Justin increases. According to Justin, there's an escalating instability at home, emotional volatility, and aggressive incidents. According to Kelsey and her supporters, she's struggling with postpartum depression while still being a devoted mother and primary caregiver. Concerns about the baby's safety and emotional well-being later appear in abuse prevention filings, with the parties offering sharper conflict accounts of the home environment. With the parties offering sharply conflicting accounts of the home environment, meaning that they had different interpretations. In June 18, 2025, North Andover Police Lieutenant Michael Davis sent a letter to Lawrence District Court citing Fitzsimmons was cleared by a medical professional to return to duty. He said her license to carry firearms was reinstated by the department. Okay, so that's June 18th. And she had made an argument about that on May 6th, roughly. Okay. Best factual timeline site available. Yeah. All right, continuing. Okay, so she has her license to carry firearms reinstated by the department. June 28th. Okay, here we go. The bachelor party. Okay, so June 28th, the joint bachelor and bachelorette party in Bethel, Maine. So a joint bachelor and bachelorette party for Justin and Kelsey is held in Bethel, Maine from Saturday through Monday with Justin's siblings and Kelsey's bridesmaids, including childhood friend Cassandra Mazzoni and bridesmaids Katrina Caruso and Deandra. So this is the friend from the beginning of the page. Was the bridesmaid. Cassandra reports heavy drinking by many guests throughout Saturday. She says she drinks very little because she does not know most of the group. This is June 28th. That's got the date. It notes that Justin seems. Sorry, let me start over. I got lost there. So this is June 28th. Cassandra reports heavy drinking by many guests throughout Saturday. Says she drinks very little because she does not know most of the group, and notes that Justin seems quiet and withdrawn. Justin states Kelsey becomes upset with him for spending time with his groomsmen and for inviting his sisters, and that as the day goes on, she becomes increasingly intoxicated and extremely erratic, running around yelling, bleepity bleep, 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 and Krusty Krab, Krusty Krab. He says others are casually drinking while she is highly inebriated, and he repeatedly asks her to stop. Again, all these scenarios always paint Kelsey as, I'm not talking about the author of this webpage, but I'm talking about the information and allegations as they are presented. Always seem to present him as like, Kelsey, like you're out of control. I know, like, oh, I'm going to add a little comedy here to this, but, oh, like, oh my God, she's drinking again. And, oh, she's out of control. And, it's always like every single one of these allegations always shine him in the light of, and her in the light of, it's always like that. Like every single time, it's like this man is always presented as so good, and this woman as presented at the absolute highest level of out of controlness, repeatedly in a lot of these docs. And Brooke and Baker read through some of this information on his show today, various information. But yeah, so he says others are casually drinking while she is highly inebriated, and he repeatedly asks her to stop. I don't want to speak to a good friend of mine, and she's probably not watching anyways, but I won't mention her name, but I was at their wedding in 2019. And during the reception, her groom was lightly intoxicated. She was heavily intoxicated. To the point where she apologized to me while she was intoxicated. She's like, I hope you don't think less of me. I'm like, no, you're good. It's your wedding. It's your wedding. It's your wedding. If you want to drink and get drunk at your wedding, I'm not going to judge you. I said to her, I go, look, don't think I'm judging you. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. It's your wedding. It's your wedding night. Because that's the thing. People like to drink at their wedding. People like to drink at bachelor parties or bachelorette parties. People get a little bit messed up at these parties. I'm just saying, it happens. It's not, people get drunk. Doesn't necessarily always make them bad people unless they're already bad people to begin with. I don't think Kelsey's a bad person. I don't think that at all. I just don't think that at all. But again, drinking, swearing, getting a little bit crazy here and there. This is all again, pretty common stuff, that you're going to see at a bachelorette party. I don't think that there's anything outrageous about this at all. And again, I would say this, you don't, if this is something you're not comfortable with, I just don't know why, I don't know. I don't want to say it, but it's just, I think this is all just, I'm just saying, what I'm saying is I don't necessarily think that this is as bad or anywhere near as bad as it's being made out to be. It just sounds like to me it's retrospective. This is just my opinion, my speculation. I just feel like all of this is just retrospective revisionist history, trying to make someone. It's like if I hung out with a few of my pals and one of them got drunk one night, and then I really didn't have a problem with it at the time, but then, for whatever reason, our friendship ends 4 months later. And I'm like, oh yeah, 4 months ago at his party, you got drunk and acted like a total asshole. And now I'm just going to tell everybody, look, I just don't like the way he acted that night 4 months ago. And it didn't bother me for 4 months, but now I'm just speculating, but it's just, I just feel like this is, what have you. So that's just my thoughts about this. Justin reports that Kelsey wants everyone inside to play drinking games and wants them to strip as part of the games. He refuses and goes out to distance himself. I mean, as a man, I do find it admirable. I mean, if my fiance wanted me to be a stripper at her bachelorette party as opposed to hiring some other guy to be a stripper, I mean, I think that's a noble quality. I would say that's a noble quality. I mean, I'd be like, oh, great. My fiance wants me to be the stripper instead of her and her friends hiring some other guy to be the stripper at their bachelorette. Like, I think that's like a good thing. He refuses and goes outside to distance himself. From 9 o'clock to 10 p.m., bridesmaid Katrina Caruso approaches Justin and, according to him, says she cannot deal with Kelsey, that Kelsey is out of control, and that she cannot handle the situation. At 11 p.m., the first bedroom confrontation, Justin goes upstairs to brush his teeth and get ready for bed. Kelsey follows him into the master bedroom, visibly upset, swears at him, and calls him names. Then briefly tries to initiate intimacy. Justin refuses because she's too drunk, tries to calm her, then leaves the room and sits downstairs with his brother Brendan and friend Aiden Ahern. Again, this is all allegedly. Late night, a second bedroom confrontation and alleged assault allegedly occurs when Kelsey follows him downstairs, face red and eyes bulging. Justin says she whispers in his ear, "Get upstairs, you bleep bleep," while pulling him back upstairs. On the stairs, he quietly tells Brendan, "I think I'm going to need your help. I do not know what is going to happen behind these closed doors," saying he is afraid because of what he describes as a history of physical abuse. Back in the bedroom, Justin says Kelsey resumes yelling, blocks him from leaving, and ignores his attempts to de-escalate. Brendan knocks to discuss plans for the next day, but Justin says Kelsey again blocks his exit. Justin reports that she looks at him and says, "Why would you leave me? You just closed my fingers in the door," even though he says there was no door involved, and believes she is fabricating an accusation. Okay. He states she then clenches her right hand into a fist and punches him 3 times in the face. Again, this is when I read stuff like this, or I hear allegations or statements like this, whatever variation this comes from, I always say to myself, if someone punches you in the face, why not take a picture of your face? Why not take a picture of your face showing the bruises? If he's been bit, he's been punched in the face, there's been damage to doors, there's been damage to this, damage to that. Why not have pictures of it? Why not? And unless it's being saved for court, I don't know. But I always say, where are the pictures? Where are the pictures showing that, hey, look, my face was punched 3 times by her? And then why not protect yourself? Exactly. If you're absorbing this kind of abuse from this person, then why is this relationship still going on? If Kelsey Fitzsimmons is as bad as is being stated here, this is what, like again, getting back to the point of in real picks, not Amber Heard's type picks. Exactly. This is getting me back to Steve Fitzsimmons, who has, Kelsey and her defense team have an allegation against all the men that broke into or entered the home. The allegations that they broke into the home. They're saying, or Justin's saying, he did not break into the home. But there's video to show what happened, right? So there is video to say, well, these men did enter the home. It's being disputed by both sides, whether it was a break-in or an entering, but at the same time, a standard entering. But at the same time, there is footage of that to say, hey, at least there's footage for what it's being contested, but at least there's footage to review. And because of that footage, they can now actually dig into it to best determine if he lived at the house or not, or if Kelsey lived at that house and not him. Okay. But there's a lot of allegations I'm reading in this that are saying he got punched, he was bitten, doors were broken, frames were broken, but there's no, like, I'm not seeing imagery coming out. I'm not even seeing leaks where there's like, okay, here's his face. Here's photos. And then, there's none of that at all. JC, can you get more specific for me? You said his affidavit states otherwise. Was that to me or the comments section? If you have more information, let me know. I'd love to hear. Yeah, it sounds like he's providing the information. Right. The police reports filed. These are the things I ask. Is there, like I said, is there photos? And I'm talking about. Okay, got you, JC. Okay, yeah. And another thing about the photos is, now people might say, oh, what someone might say, well, as a Kelsey Fitzsimmons supporter, what is to stop him from like retroactively creating photos and reenacting things that happened? Okay, so this would be the situation. So photos are all digital with your phone. When you take a picture with your phone, there's information on your picture. So if you were to take a picture right now with your phone, all right, if I took a picture and I go to my last picture I took, or even a screenshot I took, there's an information button at the bottom of my iPhone. And this tells me that the last information I took was at 12 p.m. on Friday. Okay. So what I would say is that, if any pictures were produced, you're right, your metadata, you'd have to have confirmation that the image, like here's one I did it, one day at like 10 in the morning on a Saturday or something. So there's always that data on your picture. So for example, he can't today, he can't just sit around and just like paint his face and take some pictures, because the photo is going to be, time-stamped essentially as a certain time taking place. So yeah. And then say, for example, it took place in Bethel, Maine, or it took place in a home he doesn't live in, sometimes this obviously you can track your cell phone's location data too. So if this, say like a picture was reenacted in, I don't know, Lawrence, Mass or something, it would say like Lawrence, he was in Lawrence, Mass at this time. I'm not saying he did this. I'm just saying for people out there that might be concerned, fake images might come out. I'm not saying he's going to do that. I'm just saying that there's data that would prevent that in court to validate the legitimacy. So if he does have legitimate photos of this, it would have had to have been taken at that time and submitted for the trial, essentially. So, but if it came from someone else's phone, that information would still have to have a timestamp on it and location. So they could still review that and determine, well, say like you had a friend like named David or Tom or Barry or something, and it came from Barry's phone, whenever that picture was taken, whether it was legitimate or not, there's traceable information to show the time that photo was taken, as well as the GPS location of the phone. That all information, yeah, metadata can be manipulated, unfortunately. Yeah, that is unfortunate, but yeah. I'm not saying he would do that at all. I'm just saying there might be people out there concerned he might do that. But I'm not expecting that at all. My argument here is that if this all happened, I am, when someone makes an allegation against, like for example, when Kelsey and her defense team make an allegation that her home was broken into, they're producing footage. They're producing footage to say, okay, here's the video of the house being what we're calling breaking and entering. Additionally, here's information to state that he did not live there at this time, right? That would be backing up your allegation. What I'm arguing for is that these allegations that are being listed against Kelsey, that, where are pictures of the broken frame from a certain day? Where are there pictures of the wall at a certain time frame? If you were hit, where is the document? Where is the documented information to validate the allegations? That's what I'm calling for. In other words, it's like people who are today questioning the status. Questioning the status of this website. Where are the sources? It's the same thing. If this happened, where are the sources to back that up? That's what I'm saying. But all I'm reading so far are allegations, and I'm not seeing any information that's, at least not yet, that would validate this. And again, I think at this point the postpartum depression argument's still in Kelsey's favor. So, it is there. Okay, it is there. Thanks. All right. He states she then clenched her right hand into a fist and punches him 3 times in the face, fearing she will not stop. He moves around her and opens the door. With the door open and Brendan in the doorway, Justin says Kelsey grabs his arm and pulls him back into the room. Once other people are present, he reports that her demeanor suddenly changes. She becomes calm and denies hitting him and tells others they were only talking. After 11 p.m., Cassandra goes to bed, hears a loud banging, screaming, and recognizes Justin's sister, Ashley, yelling, "Do not touch my brother." Cassandra sees Justin grab belongings and leave looking scared, then sees Kelsey comment saying, "I did not touch him. I did not do anything. I just want to get home to my baby." Cassandra notes nobody outside the closed bedroom witnessed what actually occurred between Justin and Kelsey. Again, Cassandra notes nobody outside the closed-door bedroom witnessed what actually occurred between Justin and Kelsey. On June 29th, this is now one day later, in the middle of the night, Justin leaves the Airbnb. His friend Dave drives him to a motel and stays overnight with him. Justin later reports his nose is hurt. It was slightly swollen. The corner of his eye was painful, and he did not have significant bruising. Okay. Events after Justin leaves, based on Justin and Cassandra's accounts, Justin is later told that bridesmaid Katrina Caruso retrieves his belongings and finds Kelsey going through them. His driver's license and debit card are missing, and he orders replacement cards. He is also told that Kelsey assaults several friends, throws a Stanley tumbler from an upper level towards a bridesmaid, and throws a box of champagne glasses down the stairs towards friends, though no one is struck. He is told that she runs into the woods and makes suicidal statements by phone. Does anybody believe this? Someone goes, "I think his nose is growing." Magically composes herself earlier and he has no proof. This is, I just, for me, having the perspective I have on it, refresh. Okay, let's see. So where am I at here? June 29th. Okay. Okay. I've now refreshed the website. No, it's probably just my webpage. Needed a second to refresh here. All right, let's go back. Second, see if she put the link in. Here we go. All right, now the sources are in there, I think. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. Now the sources are in here. Okay, this is... That's the joint bachelor party. That's that. Bridesmaids and Katrina. This is all coming from the same drive, I'm guessing. Looks like it. Looks like it. Okay. Then gets upstairs. This is from different. All right, let me open this up. Looks like Irina put a lot of sources in here. All right, let's open this up. Okay, here we go. This is from 7/3/2025. 1 second. This is a different... Thank you so much in Lemonade. I appreciate that. It was there, but not for each line. Okay, it was already there. All right. All right, we will continue here. Much appreciation. You're a good egg, Mazza. Lemonade. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I can also find some information in the record section. All right. Yeah, she put up a paywall in the middle of the show. No, I'm just kidding. I'll get the link out to the group. Stand by. All right. If you guys need to access this website, it's going to be coming in the chat here. It might be frozen. Stand by, folks. Okay, here we go. All right. All right, there's the post there. Yep. Okay, now it's in there. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I think I got frozen here for a minute. Okay, there we go. Someone says, so yeah, if you need this website, here you go. There it is right there. And then someone goes, where's the receipts, audio, vids, pics, and all these allegations? Absolutely. All right. Yeah, crime timelines. Exactly. Wouldn't the police in court see bruises on his face days later when he went to court? Someone says, throwing things is not assault. Throwing things at someone and missing isn't or is assault. The act of just throwing stuff isn't assault, though. All right. Yep, so that's the website. Irina DNI says, thank you, guys. Someone says, wow, great website. Perfect. All right. Let's see where we left off here. Okay, so this is now, he gets ready for bed. She hears the information, the Airbnb. Okay. All right, this is where we're at this account. Escalation at the stairs. Okay, so this is June 29th. As friends try to de-escalate, Cassandra says Kelsey suddenly snaps from calm to screaming, throws a Stanley cup of water toward Deandra, and a box of champagne glasses down the stairs, though neither hits anyone. I mean, how many things is she going to throw here? I mean, they talk about, I mean, you'd think she was Galaga who smashes watermelon on stage the way they're claiming. She throws things around and shatters things all the time. Yet there's never, I mean, is there any pictures of this? As someone that's trying to remain objective, who's a supporter of Kelsey, I would say, how many times are they going to claim she throws and breaks things? Throws things down the stairs, though neither hits anyone. Friend Miss Michelle restrains Kelsey. Cassandra reports Kelsey kicks Mitchell while restrained, and again later when unrestrained. So if Kelsey kicked Mitchell, again, where's the, is there an assault charge? And again, later when unrestrained, Cassandra confirms a video of Kelsey yelling on the stairs matches what she witnessed. A video of Kelsey yelling confirms a video of Kelsey yelling on the stairs matches what she witnessed. Okay, so if there's a video of it, does it have any level of physical assault? Again, postpartum here. Running into the woods in near collision. Kelsey runs into the woods. Friends call her parents who reportedly respond that she is fine. From 1 to 2 a.m., Cassandra leaves with DeAndre because of continued chaos and unpredictability. On the highway, a car resembling a black Cadillac sideswipes them, nearly forces them off the road, then speeds away. They later learn Kelsey is traveling home in a black Cadillac with family. Cassandra explicitly states she does not assume who was driving. Cassandra has no further contact with Kelsey or her siblings after this. That's a pretty rich story right there. On the highway, a car resembling a black Cadillac sideswipes them and nearly forces them off the road. They later learn Kelsey is traveling home in a black Cadillac with family. I have a lot of questions about all of these. I know, and again, to Irina, who made this website, she is just simply posting the information that she has come across. This does not represent her opinions. This does not represent my opinions. This is simply data information that has been quantified and assembled into a timeline for presentation on this website. But I just find this all extremely rich. Wouldn't a car like that be stopped by police? Wouldn't there be like a cop at some point would have stopped this Cadillac, pulled it over, arrested the driver? These are the things I look at. This is a rich story. Cassandra has no further contact with Kelsey and her siblings after this. Early morning custody of the baby. Early morning, Kelsey's parents take custody of the baby. Justin speaks with Kelsey's father and says Kelsey is mentally unstable, should not be caring for the baby, and he fears for both Kelsey and the child. Later that day, Justin and his father, we're getting into it here. Justin and his father go to the North Andover home. Justin tells Kelsey is only coming to retrieve belongings and does not tell her he also intends to collect firearms, stating he fears how she might react if she knew. On June 30th in the morning, Justin contacts North Andover police and speaks with Lieutenant Sean Daly. He reports that on June 29th, Kelsey called and messaged him about killing herself and the baby. Okay. On June 29th, Kelsey called and messaged him about killing herself and the baby. Repeatedly tried to get him to come to the house alone, and that he believes she is trying to lure him back. He states he is beyond 100% certain that if he refuses to stay with her, she will kill him, their son, and then herself. He says she insists he is still in Maine, accuses him of cheating with her best friend, and refuses to believe even when he FaceTimes her from his home in Stowe. Justin tells Daly that Kelsey will not take the order well, will not want to surrender the baby, is prone to irrational actions, and is capable of violence. Okay. All right. North Andover Police Department, if this is all true, you're in the hot seat now. If Justin informed the police this information, and this information is accurate, and the North Andover Police, as a first order of business, should have secured the firearm while entering that home. Additionally, they should have got Kelsey out of that home immediately. Let's just say all this information was true, and he's completely telling the truth. If all this was true, and he told the North Andover Police Department all this information, they should have removed Kelsey they should have not have entered Kelsey's home. They should have had Kelsey exit the home. They should have secured the firearms and taken it from there. Because it says here that Daly was warned. She will not take the order well, will not want to surrender the baby, is prone to irrational actions, and is capable of violence. If they knew all that, then this only makes the North Andover Police Department look worse. If this was all true, if that were true, if he was really told this officer, they would have been sure to take every precaution necessary to prevent what happened from happening. They would have gone in there. They would have been extremely cautious. They would have been not walking in a house, leaving Officer Noonan one-on-one, not allowing Officer Noonan to be on a one-on-one situation with an individual that's being claimed as violent, as the police department was allegedly warned of. So this does not bear water, in my opinion. This does not bear water, in my opinion, because if the North Andover police knew about this, they would have. It sounds to me like they should have called SWAT, according to what I'm hearing here. They should have basically called the SWAT team. That's what I'm getting from this. Because he makes it seem like, Kelsey would have been unbelievable to stop. And to Lauren's point, finishing my sentence, all the more reason to follow protocol here. So why did the North Andover Police Department, if they knew all this information, why didn't they follow protocol? Why weren't they more alert that they were going to enter a home where this Kelsey Fitzsimmons, who allegedly is this absolutely violent person that has been attacking people and breaking frames and destroying walls and driving black Cadillacs and nearly running people off the road, this woman that's an incredible danger to society, why do they knock on her door and casually walk in like, hey, Kelsey, we'll take lemonade and iced tea, please, if you have any available for us before we tell you we're here for an RO. They walk in the house very gingerly and casually. Those cops don't even look defensive, have a defensive posture when they enter the home. They enter there like they're just here to say, hey, we're going to take your baby from you. Like it's not going to be any big thing. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't add up, in my opinion. If they knew this and Daly knew this, then they would have taken every single measure necessary to ensure that this situation would not explode into what it exploded into in that home where Kelsey Fitzsimmons was nearly killed. I mean, when you think about it, if this is all true, this does not make sense to me. This part does not make sense. If the police officer department knew that, they would have held that situation completely differently. He said, and plus Daly knew Kelsey. He says he told Daly multiple times that she could look you in the eyes and kill the baby, police officers and herself, and that she has the power and ability to kill you without hesitation. Again, to all the points I just made, to every single point I just made. If they were informed that Kelsey Fitzsimmons was this out of control, then why did they handle this situation? Hey, just get Kelsey upstairs to pick up some things. I know we haven't secured the firearms yet, but hey, Noonan, if you just want to stay in the bedroom one-on-one with her and not secure the firearms first, like just do that. Because, even though we were just told that Kelsey's this violent woman, then why do we need to even be concerned? Like we'll just one-on-one situations, don't secure the firearms first. If they were told all this stuff, they probably would have called. I'm just saying, they probably would have escalated this situation, but they don't. They walk in there casually and they're like, yeah, we're here to take your baby, collect some things. We're not even going to search for the firearm and secure that first. And then all this stuff happens. Kelsey has postpartum depression. Kelsey has a suicidal tendency in that moment. So this does not add up to me. What I'm reading here does not add up. It doesn't make sense. And right. Even if they had body cams or not, with maybe one of the officers maybe wanted to record while they were going in that home. This portion of this right now, when we read all the he said, she said, or what he said that's in this, and you start to read through this, and all of a sudden you find this major contradiction right here, how can you believe the rest of the allegations? If this was told, then how can I believe all these other things they're saying about Kelsey when this one right here doesn't make any sense to me? Why send 3 officers? Why not send 6 or 7? As they were warned, this woman's extremely dangerous. Why not secure the firearms? Because this woman's extremely dangerous. She could kill you. She could kill the baby. You're going to walk into a house where a woman's allegedly going to kill herself and her baby and kill you all at once. You're going to walk in like you're coming over for iced tea and lemonade on a June 30th evening. That does not pass the smell test. The math ain't mathing. Now, I don't know what happened behind the scenes between Kelsey and him. I don't know. I don't know what's true, what's not. When I start to read this stuff, and this is what's being told to me, and it doesn't make sense to me based on the footage I've seen of them entering her home, that's where I start to ask a lot of serious questions about the validity of these claims. And this is information that only makes me further believe Kelsey Fitzsimmons' story. Because again, it's like the great Mick Foley used to say in wrestling, tell a lie long enough, tell a lie tall enough, and eventually people will believe it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the lie is true. Doesn't necessarily mean that the story being told is true. And we've been reading a lot of information about how horrible of a person Kelsey Fitzsimmons is. And I've never heard anything about pictures of any of this stuff, documents of any of this stuff. And through all of it, she's basically had postpartum depression. It's just, this is a very intertangled he said, she said case between her and him and her and the police department. But I'll tell you, I just continue to support Kelsey. I just really do. I mean, the information that they dropped last week, all that information, the video they dropped, I mean, I'm not the only one that believes it, because people donated $11,000 to Kelsey's defense fund on this program last Sunday after seeing what happened, after reading what happened. So let me ask you, who's believing what out there? What is the public believing? Is the public believing him, or is the public believing her? And after we had a fundraiser last week that grossed over $11,000, 4 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to be on Common Sense Investigator show trying to raise the next $5,000 to hit $100,000. How can you, I mean, I just think these are a lot of tall tales. And again, why the need? Why did the PR team feel, and it's just my speculation, it seems like the PR team told him to go interview with NBC Boston 10 and not have the interview recorded. Why was that? Why would, if Kelsey Fitzsimmons is so, if everything that's being said about Kelsey Fitzsimmons is true, then why have an interview with NBC 10 that's not recorded? Why not have it recorded? Why not go on the news and say, hey, look, Kelsey Fitzsimmons is a threat to our society, and you guys are not going to believe what you're going to hear when this thing goes to trial, and blah, blah, blah. Why not on recorded camera just say, because that's what Karen Reed did when she was innocent. She would just go on camera and say, I didn't do this. I didn't do any of this. Kelsey Fitzsimmons gets out of jail on the 8th of September and makes the comment, the truth will come out. Tim Bradle and his team drop an explosive amount of information with video, screenshots, internet history, bank information to some part, showing basically all these things that happened. The public is far more interested in this case today than they were over a week ago. Over a week ago. So again, we can read about all these allegations of Kelsey. We don't know if they're true. And most of them, if not all of them, are not true. Or, maybe Kelsey did from time to time, when she had postpartum depression, throw some things around. Maybe she did. Maybe occasionally she got upset and took a frame out. I mean, yeah, like someone said earlier, that's not a crime. If you have a frame on your wall and you just say, you know what, I'm just going to shatter this thing because I'm in a bad mood, not a crime. It's really not. It's really not. Being angry, swearing, getting drunk. I mean, as long as you don't drink and drive. I mean, come on. But so I'm reading some of these stories, and Glara says, I know what I see on video, that's for sure. And Tim Bradle's office, to that point, shows that her name's on the deed. So this again, why the need to go to NBC 10? Sounds like the PR team said, hey, we need to clean this up a little bit. But hey, don't have the meeting recorded, because we don't want the news media to play anything that the defense team could use in court to harm us, harm the prosecution. That's what that sounds like to me. Okay, so Kelsey's allegedly horrible. He tells the CIC that Officer Fitzsimmons was calling and messaging him statements about killing yourself and the baby. All right, calling and messaging. So if he messaged these statements to her, He's going to have to actually produce that in court. All right, now here we go. He told the CIC that Kelsey Fitzsimmons was calling and messaging him statements about killing herself and the baby. Note, according to the police report, he did not turn the text messages over to the CIC. He just said she was calling and messaging him statements, but did not turn that information over. He then applies for an abuse prevention order under MGL. This is June 30th. He says, she was visibly and verbally upset. She was in the room. She started to swear at me. She was calling me names. And then she did try to briefly initiate intimacy, which I outright did not. She was too drunk, did not want any part of that. I wanted to more put her to bed and remove myself from the situation at that point, and her emotions were all over the place. Sorry, I didn't go back to full zoom. Her emotions were all over the place. She was very angry. I did try to remain calm. I did not raise my voice. I tried to ease her nerves and kept her calm. After using the restroom, I did immediately. I opened the master suite door. I went back downstairs. I went back downstairs to remove myself from the uncomfortable situation, and I went next to my brother and my brother Brendan and my life. I went next to my brother and my brother Brennan and my lifelong friend Aiden. She quickly did follow. I'm trying to read this the best I can. It just seems all over the place. She quickly did follow me downstairs, and angrily I could vividly remember that her face turning red, her eyes bulging out of her head. She was whispering in my ear. She's like, "Get upstairs, you bleeping asshole," like whispering in my ears. And she was attempting to go back upstairs. It's all this grammar's all over the place here. And she was attempting to go back upstairs to go back and talk. But to see all the grammar here? But to the master bedroom overlooking the first floor. And I was terribly scared of her reaction. I didn't know what to do, what she was going to do, but she was clearly angry about something. At that point, I was scared. This is all written. At that point, I was scared what she's going to do behind closed doors. On the way back upstairs, I whispered to my brother, I was like, I think I'm going to need your help. I don't know what is going to happen behind these closed doors. I don't know what it's going to do, but she's very upset. She's swearing. She is yelling. Like there is a history of physical abuse, and I was scared of what she was going to do behind closed doors. Source provided. Afternoon. This is the same day of the shooting here. Yeah, the writing of that, that's what I mean. I read that whole thing and I was having difficulty writing it. Having difficulty reading it. See, I'm misspeaking now. It doesn't, exactly. It just doesn't, I had difficulty reading that and comprehending that. All right. So next, in the afternoon, Justin invites Kelsey to a local park to talk, but he does not show up. Kelsey later says she eventually returns home after waiting. At 4:31 p.m., a restraining order is issued by the Essex and Family Probate Court, which issues a 209A order in Justin's favor, temporary custody of the baby to Justin, an order requiring her to surrender all firearms. So they have an order requiring her to surrender all firearms. That should have been the first thing that was done before entering that home. Because remember, the police officers were allegedly told that Kelsey Fitzsimmons was a threat to everybody. At 6:02 p.m., this is the serving of it now. So 4:31, the order got issued. Now at 6:02, the police arrive at 125 Phillips Brooks Road. Lieutenant Sean Daly, Officer Patrick Noonan, and Officer Tim Houston, all these officers are witnesses in the trial, arrived to serve the restraining order, remove firearms, and transfer custody of the infant. Now, they don't remove the firearms, obviously, because Kelsey obviously said she got her hands on a firearm. Noonan also said that. What her intention was with that firearm is disputed by Kelsey and Noonan. However, the transferring of custody of the infant was also in place. So they don't remove the firearms first or have her surrender the firearms first. They don't do that. They have her gather some things, go up in the bedroom, and eventually it turns into a one-on-one situation with Noonan in an effort to transfer custody of the baby. They don't have any female officer with them. They do not have DCF present. They don't have anything like that going on in this situation. And now all of a sudden there's no firearm secured. It's insanity. Sleuthy Goosey writes, I tell you, when I had an order served on my ex, They served him the order before they collected any of his firearms or his parents. Okay, interesting. Interesting to note that. Okay. Maybe to that point, Sleuthy, we didn't have DCF present either. Very interesting. Okay. Interesting information here. Well, what about to analyze it a different way, given the information you provided me? What about a situation where they got her out of the house first, serve the order there, and then, so they would have served the order first before they collected the firearms. I'm still thinking there would have been a procedure there where they would have, they would have been able to collect those firearms to secure the safety of everybody. Now, continuing, Daly informs Kelsey of the order, the custody transfer, and the firearm surrender. I'm guessing this took place in the next room after they gained entry to the house, which was on video. They inform her of the order, the custody transfer, and the firearms surrender. Okay, here we go. This is now Kelsey's account of the lead-up. Kelsey says Justin asked her to meet him in a park, and she waited nearly 3 hours with no explanation. She says she returned home unaware of the restraining order and was feeding the baby when 3 of her colleagues arrived and told her she lost access to her son, her firearms license, and her job, plus her fiance. She describes this as the moment she emotionally collapsed and entered severe suicidal despair. From 6:10 to 6:17 p.m. inside the house, officers explain the order and tell her Justin will arrive to take the child. She packs the baby's supplies. Officers escort her upstairs to gather clothing while Noonan supervises. Daly remains downstairs and Houston moves between levels. At 6:17, Justin arrives and Kelsey's mother arrives. Justin arrives, as does Kelsey's mother. Emotions escalate. Kelsey asks Houston to keep Justin away. So here we go. His arrival, I'm putting this on the police department because his arrival, if this was all this, let's see it's Sleuthy. Let's see what Sleuthy goes. He's commenting. She goes, I'm just telling everybody what my experience was. Sleuthy's not saying like DCF shouldn't be there. She's just saying, her experience. She's giving her firsthand experience. I went with them to take our son, and he went home with me. Okay. So that's Sleuthy's. If you're asking about this, the baby was in the home. Sleuthy says, yeah, I had to be. I didn't want to be anywhere near him. I didn't want him to see him. But them retrieving my son for me wasn't an option. I had to be there to take him, is what she's saying. Okay. That's her personal experience she's sharing with us today. Thank you, Sleuthy, for sharing. I would just argue they shouldn't have allowed him in the house until everything was, like, for example, secure the firearms first. Because again, if these officers, if he told the officers she was dangerous, okay, and they're on guard for a woman that could be dangerous, according to what they were told by him, then they would be a lot more cautious, right? They would say, well, if she's as dangerous as you say, then you probably don't want to come in the house either. You know what I mean? Like, why would he want to come in the house? If she's as dangerous as he was saying, why would he want to come in the house? And additionally, why would the cops even allow him in the house? And then from here, emotions escalate. Kelsey asks Houston to keep Justin away. Those are my thoughts on that. Maybe keep him outside the house. Don't let her know he's out there. That would de-escalate. That would prevent any level of escalation, especially when they have not removed the firearms first. Because again, these officers were allegedly informed about how dangerous she was when Kelsey was only essentially, postpartum suicidal. 6:18 to 6:19 p.m., conflicting versions of what happens next. Officer Noonan's account. He says Kelsey lunges behind the door, reappears with a gun pointed at him, and pulls the trigger and hears a click, then begins racking the slide when he yells commands. Kelsey's account. She says she was suicidal, alone in despair, placed the gun to her own head, pulled the trigger in a half-hearted suicide attempt. It did not fire, and she never pointed the weapon at any officer. So those are the conflicting events between Noonan and Kelsey. At 6:19 p.m., the shooting takes place. Officer Noonan fires twice, believing she is about to shoot him. Daly hears commands and gunshots from downstairs and runs up. So the first shot hit the air conditioner. The second shot hit Kelsey. Let's looking at some comments. Then the door, of course, comes up here, as Amanda points out. Okay. The police department handled it all wrong. Their bias towards him is front and center. All right, moving forward. This is Justin's perspective. I began to walk back towards the stairs and to go back up to the first floor. Okay, that means that he was in the basement. And I vividly hear, and I hear conflicting reports about that. I heard he was in the first floor. And I vividly hear an officer scream, yell out, "No, stop it, don't do it." And I can vividly hear that, the "no, stop, don't do it." And then I believe, this is what's written here. Then I hear what I believe to be 3 gunshots ring out. So there were 2. He's claiming 3. And I hear, it's not often, I'm not trying to defend him, but it's not often uncommon for somebody to misinterpret the amount of shots by 1 shot, less or more. And I hear Kelsey's mom start frantically screaming. I immediately recognize what has happened. I recognize there was a shooting in the house. Someone most likely has been shot. My one priority is my son's safety right now, as he was 20 feet outside that house. I immediately run from the vicinity of the stairs that led down to the basement to the garage, and I fumbled with the locking mechanism due to the darkness, and I was able to throw open the garage door, and I sprint around. Now, there's other information that says he was in the living room when this happened, but that's his account. We'll move forward. At 6:20, immediate aftermath, officers rush in, move the firearm away from Kelsey, provide first aid, and again, there was an EMT on the scene. Provide first aid and remove the baby under the court order. State police respond, secure the scene, and later seize 4 firearms. Medical, Kelsey is airlifted to Mass General Hospital with a chest wound, a collapsed lung, broken ribs, and internal injuries, undergoes multiple surgeries, and remains hospitalized for weeks. At 6:22, fire and EMS, emergency medical services, are dispatched to Phillipsbrook Road after an off-duty North Andover police officer is shot by another North Andover police officer during an armed confrontation while police are serving a court order. It's crazy to me that all this takes place off the Karen Reed case ending weeks earlier. It's just wild. Initial 911 information indicates that the victim has sustained a serious injury. At 6:25, fire personnel arrive on scene and immediately begin life-saving measures. The patient is identified as a 28-year-old female North Andover police officer suffering a gunshot wound to the chest with an exit wound through her back. Advanced airway management is initiated and crews begin breathing for the patient. A med flight, Engine 1 requests Boston med flight due to the severity of the injuries. At 6:30, there's a patient transport where North Andover Fire advises that a hot load will be required for patient transfer, meaning the helicopter will remain running during the handoff to expedite transport. 6:33 helicopter operation. Lighter ones redirected to Lawrence Municipal Airport to assist with helicopter landings. At 6:37, Car 2 and Engine 1 arrive at Lawrence Airport and prepare for patient transfer. I'm going to get a drink of water. Sorry, guys. At 6:43, life-saving measures. North Andover Ambulance 1 begins transporting the patient from the scene after a blood transfusion is administered in the field. At 6:46, med flight here. Ambulance arrives at Lawrence Airport. Boston is transferred to the Boston Med flight under critical care conditions. Boston Med flight departs Lawrence Airport en route to Mass General Hospital at 6:56 p.m. At 7:09, Boston Med flight arrives at Mass General in Boston. An additional North Andover Police Department is transferred to the hospital for evaluation because he is the officer who discharged his firearm and shot the victim. That's Noonan. Identity of the victim is initially withheld pending family notification. North Andover Police and the Essex County District Attorney's Office begin an active investigation. At 10:30 p.m., the location remains an active crime scene with Massachusetts State Police, North Andover Police, and the Essex County District Attorney's Office on the scene. Officer Patrick McCarthy Noonan is placed on critical incident leave, that's paid leave, following the shooting incident involving Kelsey Fitzsimmons. All right, continuing on. I have to check the comments every so often. All right, so that's just a lot to take in. After reading that, I just had to mentally pause for a second there. That's just a lot. What's interesting to me, and I talked about this last week, is Noonan was placed on critical incident leave again in the future, which I found extremely interesting, to say the least. On July 1st, Essex County District Attorney, people we all love here, Attorney Paul Tucker and North Andover Police Chief Charles Gray held a press conference. Tucker said 3 officers, including a supervisor and Fitzsimmons, were in the house. He said Fitzsimmons was stable in a Boston hospital, and state police detectives from his office were handling the investigation and looking to see if video footage existed. Gray said his department does not wear body cameras. And again, body cameras would solve a lot, wouldn't they? Just like when you don't have ring footage or doorbell footage on Fairview Road the night of the John O'Keefe murder. Interesting how that happens. But again, police department, no body cameras, despite having funding approval to wear body cameras. And I wonder, does the North Andover Police Department, maybe a town resident of North Andover, can ask this question if we don't know? Does the North Andover Police Department presently wear body cameras as of today? If someone's a North Andover resident and can ask that question at the select board, I'd love to hear that question asked if they know for a fact that the North Andover Police Department does not presently wear body cams. I do believe body cameras should be mandated for the protection of the public from police and for the protection of the police from the public. I believe that everything is a lot safer between the public and the police when body cameras are involved. On July 2nd, 2025, Lieutenant Sean Daly was interviewed. He stated that he remained on the first floor of the house with Fitzsimmons. So here you go. This is where the contradiction happens, okay? Sean Daly's interview contradicts Justin's interview. Justin said he left through the garage, okay? He said that earlier. He said, I began to walk back towards the stairs and to go back up to the first floor. Then I hear the incident happening. I immediately run from the vicinity of the stairs that led down to the basement. So he sounds like he was on the stairway. As he was 20 feet outside that house. So I immediately run from the vicinity of the stairs that led down to the basement to the garage. I guess he could arguably be on the first floor. The vicinity of the stairs could be just arguably okay. I could see that argument being made. It was on the first floor in the vicinity of the stairs that led down to the basement to the garage. Okay, so he exited through the garage is what he's claiming. Okay, I just want to better understand that. Okay, Daly was interviewed. He stated he remained on the first floor with Kelsey's mom, Justin, and Officer Houston. So that would mean Justin would possibly be in the vicinity of the basement. Okay, let's see if we'll just read this through and see if there's any contradictions. He stated he heard Officer Noonan on the second floor yell, "Kelsey, don't do it. Kelsey, don't do it," followed by 2 gunshots. All of the officers began to render first aid to Fitzsimmons and requested an ambulance to the scene. While administering aid to Fitzsimmons, Lieutenant Daly stated that he observed a firearm where Kelsey Fitzsimmons was lying. He moved the firearm to the bed out of the reach of Fitzsimmons. After the incident, while medics were treating Fitzsimmons' injuries, Lieutenant Daly said that Officer Noonan told him that prior to the shooting, Fitzsimmons had pointed a firearm at him. That is when he shot her. As we read about on my show last Saturday. Okay. On July 3rd, Justin and his accomplices at 9:03 a.m. forcibly enter Kelsey's North Andover home 3 days after she was shot during a June 2025 custody dispute while she recovered in the hospital. Footage captures the group kicking in a door, rummaging through rooms, and handling storage bins, raising questions about their motives. Alleged action inside the residence, per source, is that the front door and door jamb were forcibly breached. Alarm system and surveillance cameras were disabled and destroyed, right? That's obviously the father would have evidence of this. Power supplies pulled from wire. Theft of a passport, a social security card. I don't know if the social security card was included. Trina, if you're still there, we might want to double check that. I don't believe the social security was included in the document I read, but we want to double check that. Just double check that for validness, but I don't believe that was included. Personal laptop included, stolen laptop connected to Wi-Fi labeled Bracelet 4. That was at Justin's parents' home. That was their Wi-Fi name. All right. So this is a big thing here. Access using the laptop. Access to Facebook, AOL, and Gmail accounts. Attempts to recover or reset Facebook account credentials. Withdrawal of approximately $5,000 from bank accounts. Access to medical records, access to pension beneficiary documents, cancellation of travel reservations, and redirection of funds. Screenshots included in filing show browser and Gmail activity during this time frame. Water break. Later, Officer Timothy Houston was interviewed at the North Andover Police Department. Officer Houston provided a similar account of the incident as Lieutenant Daly. Officer Houston stated that Fitzsimmons told the officers that all of her firearms were locked in a safe in the basement. So I beat up on this before, and I'm going to do it again. So Officer Houston provided a similar account of the incident as Lieutenant Sean Daly. Officer Tim Houston stated that Fitzsimmons told the officers that all of her firearms were locked in a safe in the basement. Now, why? And I'm questioning the police officers here. Because there was one account where I heard they actually went down there and couldn't find them. Why wouldn't they just secure those firearms right off the bat? Or verify that they were locked, first and foremost? Because obviously, based on what happened in the bedroom, either Kelsey lied or they lied. And if Kelsey told the truth, they should have gone right down there. They should have double checked to see if they were there. They should have verified they were there. And I would have done that as an officer before we moved her around the house. Because remember, allegedly, these officers were told that Kelsey's extremely dangerous. And the last thing you want when you enter the home of someone who's extremely dangerous is to not secure those firearms first. That's just my take. But I think they should have secured that. And if they went down there, they couldn't find them, they couldn't gain access to the firearms, they should have asked Kelsey why. Where are they? We want these firearms. We don't want to start moving you around upstairs to pack things. We want to get the child in and out of the house, what have you. You know, you don't want to start doing this. And if there's a potential shooting that could take place here. Because if she lied to you, then we have a serious problem. Law girls, do we know if the Social Security was taken? I don't remember seeing that. Page 22, the cash was now gone the day before. The only things in the top cabinet of the open gun safe were Kelsey's passport and Social Security card. The cash was now gone the day before. The only things in the top cabinet. The gun safe was open because they took the firearms. Yeah. Exactly. That's a question I have too. I believe the baby might have already been outside or on the first floor. I'm not sure. That part of getting so many interpretations that sometimes it's hard to really narrow down exactly where the child was at any moment. Scott goes, most remaining towns that don't yet have body cameras have claims like Canton, Mass. We can afford the cameras, but we can't afford the data services yet. That's the excuse. Okay, her passport was now missing and only her social security card remained. Okay. That was my interpretation, that the social security card was not taken. That's what I was believed. Okay, common sense investigator can confirm that the North Andover Department does not have body cams as of today. I find that very shocking considering what's happened here. You think that that police department would move forward with body cameras after what's happened here, especially when they want to, they're getting, because I mean, their department's getting a lot of allegations. Their department's getting a lot of allegations. And if they're right and Kelsey's wrong and we're all wrong, why would you not want to have your officers have body cameras going forward? So if such an incident ever took place again, you could say, hey, look, we're right. And you see here that this incident happened just the way we're telling you it happened. When you don't have the body cams, it turns into what this has become, which is people taking sides. For example, most people believe Kelsey Fitzsimmons is innocent. Most people who believe Karen Reed is guilty happen to believe Kelsey is guilty because that's the way those people are. But yeah, thanks for the update on that, Lauren. It's saying the gun safe was in the basement. That's what I read as well, was that it was in the basement. That was in one of the documents that's also been highlighted here. So it's my understanding that it was, does it say where the gun safe actually was? Yeah, I don't know. But I did believe the baby was outside. Okay, so they got the baby out of there quick. And who knows? I mean, we don't even know. I mean, but exactly where that was. But they should have gone down. If this is what they were told, they should have verified that. They should have made damn sure to verify that. Officer Houston stated that Justin arrived at the residence when Fitzsimmons was packing her belongings. That's for the child. Fitzsimmons stated that she did not want Justin in the residence while she was there. Officer Houston went towards the basement to advise Justin to wait downstairs. So you see what I'm saying here? They had him in the house. They had him in the basement. So Justin did at one point say he was in the basement, went upstairs, was in the vicinity. Okay. Moments later, Officer Houston heard Officer Noonan screaming, "Kelsey," followed by 2 gunshots. Officer Houston immediately ran upstairs and observed Fitzsimmons laying on the ground. Officer Houston asked Officer Noonan what happened, and Officer Noonan stated that Fitzsimmons pointed a firearm at him, pulled the trigger, then racked a round of ammunition. After the shooting, all of the officers began to render aid to Fitzsimmons. Officer Patrick Noonan was interviewed at the North Andover Police Department. During the restraining order service process, Noonan was alone with Fitzsimmons on the 2nd floor of the house. The 2nd floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and a closet. Officer Noonan stated that Fitzsimmons was packing clothing and books for the infant. Noonan stated that Fitzsimmons was kneeling on the ground, folding laundry in her bedroom. Officer Noonan, standing in the doorway, observed Fitzsimmons face toward him, lunged toward an area behind the door, and then reappear pointing a firearm directly at him. That's, again, the mention of the door here, behind the door. Officer Noonan said Fitzsimmons pulled the trigger and he heard the firearm click, but no round was fired. Fitzsimmons then began to stand up as Noonan pulled his firearm out of his holster. Fitzsimmons began to rack the firearm to chamber a round. Officer Noonan gave several commands such as drop the gun and don't do it. Officer Noonan stated that at this point, he knew she was trying to kill him. He fired 1 round and Kelsey Fitzsimmons continued trying to chamber a round. So that was the one that missed. Officer Noonan fired a 2nd round, striking Fitzsimmons. Officer Patrick Noonan, who shot Fitzsimmons, was put on administrative leave. On July 9th, about 9 days later exactly, with June 30th being the last day of the month, Tim Bradle was hired as a defense attorney for Kelsey Fitzsimmons. The DA's office confirmed Fitzsimmons was charged with armed assault with intent to murder, this was later dropped, and 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. Grand jury. July 14, 2025, post-commission suspension effective date. The Massachusetts Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission entries later reflect The certification number here, she is listed as an unassociated officer formerly of the North Andover Police Department. Suspension effective July 14th. She's listed as an unassociated officer formerly of the North Andover Police Department. Okay, and suspension effective July 14th. July 15th, Mass State Police complete an initial investigative report. The Essex County DA's office files a district court complaint. Charges include armed assault with intent to murder, 2 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. On July 17th, Attorney Bradel issues a press release on Kelsey's behalf. In that statement, Kelsey emphasizes her longstanding dedication to law enforcement and public safety, describes herself as a devoted mother who has never spent more than one night away from her son, acknowledges her postpartum depression diagnosis, and says she sought treatment immediately and followed medical advice. She criticizes the restraining order process, describing it as allowing someone to make horrible, untrue claims that can strip a parent of access to their child with minimal inquiry. I strongly support that argument. I absolutely agree. That has been mentioned by me on multiple shows. Lauren Katie as well, and I, who's in the comment section today, have had that conversation quite a bit. I don't like that as well. States that on June 30th, she waited for her baby at a park for nearly 3 hours after Justin asked to meet, and that he never showed or called. Says she returned home only to have 3 of her colleagues arrive shortly afterwards and inform her she was losing her son, her job, and her license. Insists that she put a gun to her own head on June 30th, pulled the trigger in a suicide attempt. The gun misfired, and she was then shot in the chest by Officer Noonan. So she does not in any way, shape, or form deny putting a gun, pulling out a gun, putting it to her head, pulling the trigger, and the gun misfiring. She admits to all of that in her account. She denies ever pointing a firearm at any officer and denies ever harming or wanting to harm her child. Emphatically speaking. States that emphatically. On August 7, 2025, hospital arrest and detention. So she's in the hospital, obviously, as of July 30th, the night of July 30th. And then on August 7th, she's arrested. While still hospitalized and recovering from surgery, Kelsey's formally arrested. She is arraigned remotely from her hospital bed. She enters a plea of not guilty immediately. Right there, not guilty. On the Commonwealth's motion, the court orders her detained under the dangerousness statute for up to 180 days. On August 11th, Kelsey and Bradel file a bail petition of the Lawrence District Court's judge's decision. August 14th, an Essex County Superior Judge held a dangerousness hearing to take her bail petition under advisement. Fitzsimmons appeared from her Massachusetts General Hospital bed. Just checking up on the comments here. All of this basically based solely on an ex parte complaint. People are saying they believe Kelsey. I believe Kelsey. I believe Kelsey. I know I do. I just don't. What I really want to do now is I want to find out if all the people that were at that house were listed as witnesses. I'll have to find some time to do that. I want to get a better understanding of exactly who these witnesses are, some of them. Like what their affiliation, like what their benefit for the prosecution or the defense would be, what their history with Justin or Kelsey would be. Those are some of the things I'd like to know about some of the people listed. All right. So they filed an appeal, a bail petition on the 11th. A dangerousness hearing took place on the 14th. And then on the 15th, the judge denied her bail appeal, and she remained held without bail. On August 18th, Fitzsimmons filed a second bail appeal. She's discharged from the hospital midweek, according to Bradel, and committed to the Western Massachusetts Regional Women's Correctional Center in Chicopee. So this is round one of that stay in this hellhole. So she's detained in the hospital under arrest. Once she's basically discharged from the hospital, they send her right to that correctional facility. She's there for about 2 or 3 weeks. On August 22nd, Kelsey and her family list 125 Phillipsbrook Road for sale for just under $600,000, as reflected on Redfin. Filing estimates Kelsey's equity in the property to be approximately $211,000, $212 roughly. So that's what she had eventually, that's the equity she built up in it. Shortly after listing, the listing price was later reduced by $20,000. On August 25th, again, just like Karen Reed having to sell her home. On August 25th, grand jury indictment, evidence is presented to an Essex County grand jury. The grand jury declines to indict on the charge of armed assault with intent to murder. That's very huge right there, ladies and gentlemen. That was a huge moment for Kelsey. One of the biggest moments for Kelsey throughout all of this is that the grand jury declines to indict on the charge of armed assault with intent to murder. What does that tell you? That told you a big picture. They didn't buy the story. They didn't buy the nonsense, And Scott McGinnis is not buying it. He says, I'm not buying Justin's version regarding Kelsey's alleged use of her firearms. So many questions there. Was a magazine inserted? Was there a round chambered? Never mind a rare misfire as claimed. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And this is absolute hell. You're absolutely right, Catherine. This is absolute hell. This is just Kalik wants to use her Reddit skills to help out with this one. We need some information. Man. Jeez. But, this is good news. I mean, again, this was good news to get. This was before I started following the story, too. I didn't start following the story till around the time she got out of jail. I think it was the day before or the day of. I hadn't been following the story at this time. So that was declined. It returns a single indictment for assault with a dangerous weapon with a maximum penalty of 5 years in state prison. So there you have it. On August 27th, Officer Noonan returned to full-time duties following leave. On August 28th, a Superior Court judge holds a dangerousness hearing under Chapter 276, Section 58A. This is the judge we all know and love, Justice Kathleen McCarthy name. The judge finds Kelsey dangerous based on Justin's testimony and affidavit about the main incident and alleged threats. Now, I want to be clear here. It's a single testimony. It's an affidavit. And all this information we don't know for a fact. We do not know that for a fact. Civilian witness accounts of her aggression and intoxication at the party. Again, a lot of people get drunk. A lot of people get aggressive. Her mental health history and prior out-of-state alcohol conviction. Can you believe it, folks? Can you believe it? Yes, Thursday the 12th. Can you believe it, this judge? However, the judge also finds that conditions can reasonably assure community safety and orders release on strict conditions, including residence with their mother and stepfather, 24-hour house arrest, except for medical, court, or attorney visits with 48 hours notice to probation, GPS monitoring, absolute abstinence from alcohol with secure, continuous remote alcohol monitoring, scram testing. And here we go. Compliance with treatment recommended by our physicians and psychologists. So here we go, right there. Abstaining from alcohol with the scram test. And then compliance with treatment recommended by our physicians and psychologists. No cash bail is set, but her release is stayed while monitoring arrangements are put in place. All right. So here we go. This is where I start paying attention to this case. This case was brought to my attention, and I start to follow it. Here it comes. On September 8th, Kelsey is released from custody under the August 28th set of conditions, which you see right here. Okay? From September 11th, September 10th to September 11th, the 2025 Scram issues and revocation of release. Kelsey files an emergency motion to remove or modify Scram. She and her mother file affidavits stating because of her chest wound, broken ribs, and breathing limitations, it is extremely painful and sometimes impossible for her to blow into the device as required. So again, she can do it, but she has limitations, and it's extremely painful and sometimes impossible because, again, this woman has been physically limited and impaired at the time based on the shooting. A probation officer reports, January, during practice tests, she showed visible pain and could not consistently comply. So you have a probation officer attesting to this. Defense suggests alternatives, such as in-person urine testing. And as you look at one of the conditions, she is under 24-hour house arrest except for medical, court, or attorney visits with 48 hours notice prior to probation. So that judge, these conditions allowed her to leave the house for medical needs. Right there. It says it right there. 24-hour house arrest except for medical, so long as 48 hours notice prior to probation. 48 hours notice to probation. Right? So that was all possible. So her defense team with this judge basically says, hey, in the mother's affidavit with Kelsey, her writing that, look, she can't physically do it. So Bradel goes in the courtroom and says, hey, look, she can do it, but it's tough. Can we use some alternatives, such as in-person urine testing, which is a reasonable ask because Bradel knows, once again, as one of the conditions, she can have a medical reason to leave her house. All right. So the judge finds Scram is essential to public safety because, Scram's the only test we can possibly trust. And alternatives are incompatible with house arrest, which is nonsense because the terms clearly dictate she can leave the house for medical so long as she notifies probation because they require frequent travel outside of the home. So this is what the judge ultimately cites because that's an issue. The judge reopens the dangerousness determination and revokes Kelsey's release. She is ordered detained again under the dangerousness statute. And this becomes one of the most controversial moments in this entire thing. On September 16th, there's a motion to reconsider that's denied. The defense files a motion to reconsider, again proposing alternative testing methods. The judge denies reconsideration, leaving Kelsey in custody. Justin filed plaintiff motion to attach real estate for the payment of child support. This is the controversial one. I think of Lauren Katie from Common Sense Investigator immediately when I read this, knowing how upset she was about this, among many others, obviously. The motion asks the court to secure approximately $211,000 in equity so that long-term child support cannot be lost or dissipated. Filing argues Kelsey has no current earnings. Certification suspension affects employment. Pending felony case further impacts finances. Without attachment, there is risk she cannot meet child support obligations. Filing requests the court attach the property proceeds to guarantee financial support for the child. On September 24, 2025 at 9:15 a.m. at the Chicopee Women's Correctional Facility Center, while an inmate was being escorted past the sub-day room, that inmate pointed and stared at Kelsey Fitzsimmons and stated, I found out something about that bitch while looking at her. Must be she figured out she was a cop, I'm guessing. 10 minutes later, Fitzsimmons spoke with staff about the incident and reported she did not feel threatened at that time. 6 minutes later, when the inmate returned to the unit, he pointed toward Fitzsimmons on the recreation deck and yelled, you PC bitch, you best check out who you were bleeping with. The incident is documented by correctional staff and recorded as a safety concern due to Fitzsimmons' prior law enforcement background. 4 days later, the defense learns that Fitzsimmons has in fact been targeted at the Chicopee Women's Correctional Center. And on October 2nd, an emergency Supreme Judicial Court petition and grandparent visitation petition is filed. Kelsey's attorney files an emergency bail petition to a single justice of the MSJC under Chapter 211, Section 3, challenging the scram requirement and detention. The same day, Lauren and William Page file a petition for grandparent visitation under Chapter 119, Section 39D in Essex and Family Probate Court. The grandparent visitation petition asks for court-ordered contact with the baby over Justin's parental objections. So a lot was going on at this point here. I know. I agree with you. Yeah, that's Lauren Katie in the chat. Just to say, yeah. You guys saw Jeffrey January yesterday. He went to watch Lucy Medina's verdict. Excellent. 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 He's a hero in all this. All right. So on October 25th, a single justice ruling in temporary visitation. A single justice denies Kelsey's emergency petition, concluding the Superior Court judge acted within the bounds of discretion. I so disagreed with that entirely. On October 28th, the Probate and Family Court issues a temporary order in the visitation case granting Lauren and William Page limited supervised grandparent visitation with the baby. That is just horrible to have to see. They were frustrated they had to go through the system on this thing too. On November 10th, the full SJC appeal was filed. Kelsey files a full appellate brief with the Supreme Judicial Court. Issues include whether the Superior Court judge abused discretion by insisting on scram breath testing despite her physical limitations. I'd say she did. Whether less restrictive alcohol monitoring measures should have been accepted. Whether revocation of release functioned as punitive rather than regulatory. On November 13th, the grandparents' visitation case, the grandparents file a request for status conference in the visitation case seeking further scheduling and clarification. On November 25th, the trial date setting, Essex Superior Court schedules Kelsey's jury trial for February 9th, the original date. Now the 23rd of this month. On November 26th, Justin is formally served with summons in the grandparents' visitation case. On December 15th, petition to dismiss the grandparents' visitation, Justin files a petition to dismiss it, arguing he is a fit parent under Massachusetts law. His decisions about contact with grandparents are entitled to deference. The Pages do not meet the necessary legal standard to override his decision. The grandparents are step-grandparents rather than biological grandparents, which he argues should affect their standing. On December 22nd, the Supreme Judicial Court issues its decision on Kelsey Fitzsimmons versus the Commonwealth. So as we know, she spent Thanksgiving in jail. This is now leading up to Christmas. This is kind of a moment where a lot of us were starting to get pretty antsy about all of this. Yeah, I'm hearing Law Girls had a heck of a stream yesterday on that. Hearing big things. All right, so the SJC reviews the dangerousness hearing record and subsequent revocation. Concludes the Supreme Court judge did not abuse discretion in imposing scram testing and using inability to comply as a basis to revoke release under Section 58A. Denies Kelsey's petition for extraordinary release. The decision leaves the detention order legally valid, but notes the trial court may revisit conditions if circumstances materially change. So that basically means that you're still basically being detained because you can't do the scram test. Now they have to make sure Kelsey can prove she can do the scram test, which basically leads us up here. So December 23rd, December 24th, change in circumstances and renewed release with updated medical documentation and changed conditions. The Superior Court reevaluates her situation. The court finds her injuries have healed enough that she can now comply with alcohol monitoring. After more than 100 days in custody under a dangerousness order, the court grants renewed conditional release with strict terms including house arrest at her mother's home in Methuen, GPS monitoring, mandatory alcohol testing, no contact provisions, and ongoing medical and psychiatric care. And I want to note that Kelsey has not had any issue fulfilling these restrictions since her release back in December. All right. Now things get a little interesting here in North Ando. So on July 11, 2026, Officer Noonan, we're now in this year, Officer Noonan reportedly failed to report for a scheduled shift. Officers conducted a well-being check after calls went unanswered. He was deemed AWOL, received a written reprimand, placed back on critical leave effective January 7th. And I'm still interested as to why he was placed on critical incident leave, and the critical incident would have been when he was placed on leave for originally, which was when he shot Kelsey Fitzsimmons at her home. That's why he was originally placed on critical incident leave. Now, all of a sudden, he's placed on critical incident leave again when all he did was oversleep due to, whatever, Flexerol, whatever it was that he took. So why is he placed back on critical incident leave? Does this mean that did they ultimately determine that the reason why he didn't report to shift that day was something was wrong with him? And did that relate to the Kelsey Fitzsimmons matter? Did that relate back to why he was placed on critical incident leave the first time? These are the questions that I wonder. He continued receiving paid detail assignments while on leave, according to the file. However, in my opinion, and we read this last week, this is extremely rare that someone would be placed on paid detail assignments while on leave while they were on critical incident leave. Why would someone ever be on paid detailed assignments like that? That, to me, I have a little bit of questions there. On January 13th, there was a 12 p.m. pretrial hearing. On February 27th, Essex County Superior Court, Commonwealth versus Kelsey Fitzsimmons, court held a scheduled hearing in the Fitzsimmons case. Proceedings took place inside a full courtroom with counsel present. Defense counsel Tim Bradle and Martha Coakley were present in court. Officer Patrick Noonan was present in the courtroom as well. Justin was referenced during arguments, but was not present. The defense addressed issues related to non-prosecution of Justin, alleged digital access to Fitzsimmons' accounts, Officer Noonan's employment status and leave history, and disclosure obligations under Brady and Giglio. The court heard arguments concerning the defense motion for disclosure of promises, rewards, and/or inducements filed on February 25th, 2026. The hearing included discussions of whether any agreements, inducements, or favorable treatment were provided to witnesses, whether additional discovery must be produced, potential conflict concerns raised by the defense. Now, no immediate ruling was reflected in the post during the live updates. Court appeared to take the matter under advisement pending further investigation. Upcoming. Pretrial conference. This is the trial readiness hearing on March 12th. Trial begins on March 23rd. Probate begins on the 14th of April, 8:30 in the morning. Current status. Kelsey remains on strict pretrial supervision, free on personal recognizance with intensive conditions. She maintains her not guilty plea to assault with a dangerous weapon and continues to deny that she ever pointed a gun at an officer. The Commonwealth maintains that she drew a firearm, pointed it at Officer Noonan, pulled the trigger, attempted to chamber the round, and that he fired in justified self-defense. Her post-certification remains suspended, and she is no longer employed by the North Andover Police Department. So there you have it. The criminal case is set for jury trial on February 9th. Now, we need to update this, Trina, now for March 23rd. And the parallel family court litigation over custody and grandparent visitation remains ongoing. Defense Code of Massachusetts regulation provides that an officer may not use deadly force against a person who poses only a danger to themselves. So that's a great argument by the defense. Conflicting accounts. The Commonwealth's account. Fitzsimmons produced a firearm. She pointed it at Officer Noonan. She pulled the trigger. The weapon clicked without firing. She attempted to rack a round. Officer yelled, "Kelsey, don't do it." Officer Noonan fires twice, striking her in the chest. Firearm recovered nearby. The defense's account. She never pointed the gun at an officer. States firearm was pointed towards her own head in suicide crisis. Says she was emotionally overwhelmed after losing her job, home stability, Calls fiance's claims false. Says she was shot during mental health crisis, not assault attempt. Injuries sustained were shot in the chest at close range, collapsed lung, broken ribs, severe internal trauma, including liver injury and pulmonary damage, multiple surgeries, extended hospitalization at Mass General, 38 to 53 days at this time are estimated. The defense position again, with this code, an officer may not use deadly force against a person who poses only a danger to themselves. In no free society should a person be able to go to a court, fill out a form, and send the police to a new mother's home and take the baby away from her without any opportunity to be heard. I'm very strong on this. I'm very strong on this. I just think that there need to be, laws or things, a process put in place to prevent that. Again, an opportunity to be heard must happen first. This should just not be, send the cops over, take the baby. Kelsey Fitzsimmons was failed by the system. Absolutely failed by this system. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is here because this system has failed her. I truly believe that. Loopholes, all this stuff, absolutely placed her in a difficult situation. And it's tough to see her go through it. If there are allegations of imminent bodily harm, that is a matter for the police and 911, not the court system, listening to one side of an issue from a private party with their own agenda and ulterior motives, seeking a leg up on future custody matters. Use of the statute in such a manner shocks the conscience and is beyond all norms in a nation of ordered liberty. It is time for SJC or legislative reform of this abuse of the Chapter 209A. So there you have it. I argued for this, and some people told me I was wrong. I'm right about this. I was right about this. There is a need for legislative reform in the state. I called for this. A lot of people supported me. A few people disagreed. Oh, Mazza, you're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, then how? Keep myself calm. Keep myself calm. If I was wrong, then how were they able to pull that off? They were able to pull it off because there was a legal loophole. If there's reform, they can't get away with this. So I'm not tooting my horn when I say I'm right. I'm just saying that to the people that said I was wrong. Even the defense is saying this. I'm venting a little bit. I get a little frustrated because I'm tired of doing homework. Thanks. Great job, Irene. This is a great page. I do my homework on this stuff, and that's what sometimes is difficult. You read something, you know something for sure, and somebody comes along and they're like, "No, Mazza, you're wrong." It's like, well, did you read what I just read? Because it's cited that what I'm saying is right and what you're saying is not right, but you're telling me I'm wrong and I don't get what I'm saying. I just get a little frustrated by that because it's just frustrating. It just is because, again, you have it here. It's listed right here. It is time. It needs to be legislative reform. Yeah. Of this abuse of Chapter 209A. Now, this page also includes a lot of case records. We want to give a little thank you here, a big thank you to Irina. I'm presenting this information on my show, but I'm using all the information assembled by Irina DNI. We thank her for putting this together for us. This is good information. There's all kinds of PDFs here. The link is here. And it's posting for you guys in the chat. So if you guys want to read this website, yeah, reform just means restructuring, basically, yeah. Scott says, this Kelsey saga is devastating, frustrating. Mother and child need reunion. Meanwhile, all the corruption piled on top, just the very thing that gets me. I pace in front of court looking for justice. Thank you for being out there. Irina, again, we thank her. She includes start by electing judges and making them stand for re-election based on their record. Exactly. But yeah, I thank Irina for putting this page together. This was provided to me by law girls, not attorneys. And for me, I always wanted to do a show with the timeline. And law girls and not attorneys last week provided me with this website. And I was able to review all this data in order, thanks to Irina's efforts here. And she has all the PDFs here too. Press releases, orders, motions, even a trauma surgeon PDF, affidavits, bail petitions, just everything here. Temporary orders, statement of facts, court opinions. All these PDFs are uploaded. And she's updating the site now. There's just a little change I noticed. She's going to update that for us right here. She's just going to update the jury trial date on that. You know, when you do this website, there's so much information that sometimes when it becomes outdated, you don't think to see it because she's updating so much information, which is helpful because we noticed it. She updates it, so that's great. This is how we work together. You know, this is how we work together. So thank you, Irina. This is a great website. A lot of PDFs here, a lot of records here. I just put the link in the chat. She also put some additional information down here. Investigation and evidence, state police source. It's all a lot of the stuff that has source links. A lot of good stuff here. Witness identifications. All good stuff here. She has this page really loaded up very nicely. Witness categories and their claims. She puts this together very nicely here. It's all very nicely broken down. Summaries here. A lot of stuff repeats, but it's broken down in a nice condensed way here. So it's almost like another presentation in a different format. Sometimes it's nice to see information broken down in different ways, even though it's the same information because it reads different, which is good. So a lot of good stuff here. You can see what the lieutenant said, some of his accounts. This is all really good stuff. This is a great website. Witness contradictions are summarized. Here we go. Let's go through this. Let's go through this here. Shooting of Kelsey Fitzsimmons. So this is contradictions. The number of shots were contradicted. Noonan said he heard 2. Noonan said he fired 2. Daly says he heard Noonan yell and heard 2 gunshots. Houston says 2. Justin says 3. So all the officers say 2. Justin says 3. Medical and charging documents describe Kelsey as being shot once in the abdomen or chest, although they acknowledge Noonan fired twice. Discrepancy. Most officers agree on 2 shots fired. Justin remembers 3, and the medical records show a single bullet strike. That creates a conflict between Justin's memory and the rest of the record and between the number of rounds fired. I don't want to ever, he might have heard her hit the ground, and maybe he interpreted that as a shot. I don't know, but that could be why. Just trying to figure out why he'd think 3. Exact words shouted before the shots were also contradicting. Daly said, Kelsey, don't do it. Said he heard Noonan say, Kelsey, don't do it. Kelsey, don't do it. Then 2 shots. Houston says he heard Noonan say, Kelsey, followed by 2 gunshots without recalling the full phrase. Justin says he heard Noonan yell, no, stop it. Do not do it. Then he heard what he thought were 3 shots. Discrepancy. All 3 placed an urgent verbal warning immediately before the gunfire, but the wording differs. Daly remembers Kelsey, don't do it. Houston only remembers Kelsey, and Justin remembers no, stop, do not do it. Where the gun was pointed in Kelsey's intent, Officer Noonan says Kelsey was kneeling on the floor folding laundry. Then she faced him, lunged behind the door, and reappeared pointing a firearm directly at him. She pulled the trigger, and he heard a click, but no round fired. She began to stand up and tried to rack the slide to chamber a round. He gave commands including drop the gun and don't do it. Believing she was trying to kill him, he fired once, then a second time as she continued trying to chamber a round. Daly and Houston's version, they do not see the actual moment of the gun being raised. Instead, they both report that after the shooting, Noonan told them Kelsey had pointed the firearm at them, pulled the trigger, and then tried to rack the gun. Kelsey, and the defense's version, in defense filings, it says Kelsey says she was blindsided by the restraining order and the removal of her baby. They state she raised her firearm to the side of her own head in a half-hearted attempt at self-harm. She is described as putting the gun to her head and being shot in the chest by Noonan, and she vehemently denies pointing the gun at him or trying to shoot him. The discrepancy is that Noonan and the supporting officers describe an attempted shooting at a police officer with the gun pointed at Noonan, but 2 officers did not witness the incidents themselves. And I like how that's in bold, because they both, like Irina broke down here, Noonan and the supporting officers describe an attempted shooting at a police officer with the gun pointed at Noonan, but 2 officers did not witness the incident itself. That's a big statement. I like that that's in bold. Great job, Irina. Kelsey's version is that the gun was pointed at her own head during a suicidal crisis and never aimed at Noonan. The intent element, suicide versus attempted murder, is completely opposite between the 2 sides. Gun status and ammunition. Noonan in the MSP report, Noonan says Kelsey pulled the trigger, heard a click, and no round was fired. He then saw her begin to rack the firearm to chamber a round. After the shooting, Officer Steve Core arrived, removed the magazine from Kelsey's firearm, and reported that there was a round of ammunition in the firearm's chamber. Defense emphasizes her suicidal gesture and notes the regulation that police may not use deadly force where a person poses only a danger to themselves, argues there was no intent to murder and no malice, and characterizes the act as a half-hearted attempt at self-harm, not an attempt to fire on officers. Tension rather than pure contradiction. The factual detail that the gun clicked without firing and later had a round in it is consistent across the Commonwealth side. The defense does not dispute the click or the presence of ammunition, but instead focuses on where the gun was pointed and what she meant to do with it. That creates a narrative conflict over intent and perceived threat, not over the mechanical details, where the guns were supposed to be stored. Kelsey reported statements to officers per Houston. Kelsey's reported statement to officers, as told by Houston, is that Houston says Kelsey told the officers that all her firearms were locked in a safe in the basement. Justin's statement says that there was no firearm safe in the basement or the North Andover home. Discrepancy. Her statement to the responding officers about gun storage is inconsistent with her fiance's description of the house. This matters in your narrative about how she accessed the gun before the shooting and whether officers had accurate information about firearm locations, which is why they should have asked. And they claim that they asked, but then they claim she said they were in the basement. If they're locked in the basement, then why didn't they locate them? Why didn't they secure them? Why didn't they ask her how many firearms were there? Threats and motive before June 30th. This is not about the split second of the shooting itself, but it directly colors how each side frames that moment. Justin's pre-shooting narrative says Kelsey's behavior on June 28th in Maine was extremely erratic, physically abusive, and alcohol fueled. Claims that on June 29th, Kelsey sent messages about killing herself and the baby, and that he sincerely believed she might be killing the baby, officers, and then herself if confronted. So that was his claim. And then says he warned Lieutenant Daly multiple times on June 30th that she would kill the baby, kill you, then kill herself rather than comply with the restraining order. I want to make a statement about this. Is that, if this is true, number one, why didn't the officers be more in a defensive posture? And if not, could the officers be on more of a defensive posture? Would that cause a cop to overreact and shoot Kelsey if they were told this up front? Could that, if this is all true, could this have instigated this officer to overreact and panic in a situation if he was informed this by Daly, who was informed this by another party? I'm not saying that's what happened, but I am saying I am raising concern. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I just raised that as a concern. Defense narrative calls this affidavit false and self-serving. States she has never harmed or threatened to harm her baby. Frames her as a new mother and transient postpartum depression episode, betrayed by Justin and overwhelmed when her baby and job were taken. Discrepancy. The fiance's statements portray her as violently dangerous to others and planning a murder-suicide. Defense filings directly deny that she has ever threatened her child and say his affidavit is not credible. That is a major conflict that will feed into your motive or intent section. Shots heard versus wounds and layout. Officers put the confrontation on the second floor in the bedroom doorway with Kelsey kneeling on the floor and then rising with the firearm. Daly and Houston are on the first floor and basement area and only hear yelling and shots, then find her on the floor with a gun nearby. Justin, located by the basement stairs when he hears the warning and believes there are 3 shots, immediately flees to protect the baby in his truck outside. Medical records in defense emphasize a single chest or abdomen wound, collapsed lung, broken ribs, prolonged hospitalization, and surgery. Note, everyone agrees on one critical fact, that she has hit once in the torso, but there's lingering confusion in witness memory over whether there were 2 or 3 total shots. I think the 2 is going to be locked down. That's a good page. Looks like Irina runs this whole page herself and has resources, has breakdowns, presents some information. Does this so in a, I thought this was an impartial page. I found this, let's see here. She says, my personal opinion not reflected on a website. If someone says she might shoot me, it sticks because you can't unlearn what you learn. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. This is a wild story. The only people that know the truth are the people involved. But, I feel like based on what I see, I agree with the defense narrative. So, yeah. So that's it. That's the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. 4 o'clock tomorrow. Go to Common Sense Investigator on YouTube. Lauren is conducting a fundraiser. Emily C. is going to be there. Broken Baker is going to be there. I believe Claudia King is going to be there. I know I'm going to be there. So we're going to do a fundraiser for Kelsey. She's $5,000 away from $100,000, ladies and gentlemen. 100 grand. So we're going to be talking about Kelsey tomorrow. We're going to be raising funds for her tomorrow. Then on Monday, MazzaMedia will be back Monday night to cover the North Andover Select Board meeting. I'll be talking about that. So I'm looking forward to the next 2 days of shows, and it should be good. That's Common Sense Investigator right there. Her name on YouTube is exactly that. You can find her channel. Just search for that in the comments section, or follow her on X. Lauren Katie, is going to be there hosting that show. And we got a lot of goals tomorrow. We're hoping to get Kelsey over 100,000. Do you think Kelsey will testify, or do you think Brado will be able to put on the case without her testifying? I don't think she's going to be called, and I do think he'll put on the case without her testifying, even though she's more of a, her level of involvement in this is far more than Karen was in her own case. Karen was accused. Kelsey was actually a first person, even though Karen would have been considered a first person based on the charges, because they claimed she was there when she backed into John, but she never backed into John. So I don't think she's gonna testify. I don't see that happen. Thank you, Gen X Erica. Purple hearts in the chat for Kelsey. Excellent. That's okay. Not a problem at all. It's good to ask questions. And it was a great day covering this. I wanted to read that website. It was good to do it on a show. We can all kind of look at it. Thanks to Irina and Sleuthy Goosey for being here today as well, helping us provide us with information, validating the website as well was extremely important. Please be sure to subscribe to MazzaMedia. All you do is hit the subscribe button. It don't cost a thing. Thank you to everybody that sent the super chat today. Stand with Mel. And then a third one from In Lemonade. Thank you guys so much. Do appreciate it. And Ms. Holmes says, Mazza, you are so easy to listen to and join with you and chatters on every account. Some YouTubers need to follow you as an example of how to be all the time. Purple Hearts. Thank you so much, Ms. Holmes. And Blessed Texas Lolly says, thank you, Mazza. You're the best. Purple Hearts. Yeah, Audrey was big at the select board meeting. Wonder if she'll be back this week. We'll see. Rhonda says, awesome show. Thank you, Mazza. Thank you, Carla Peaches. Purple Hearts from LMP. No, we'll continue to support Kelsey and help her out, give her her best chance in court. And, trial's 16 days away. So here we are, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, donate to Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Do appreciate it. to help out Kelsey and raise money for her. And we're good to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Free Kelsey Fitzsimmons. The road to $100,000 continues. That's been one of my goals for the longest time. Law Girls Not Attorney, thank you for providing me with this website so we could use this today as a means of presentation and conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves. From MazzaMedia, we support Kelsey Fitzsimmons. We hope for the best for her, and we want all the best. Everybody stay well out there. Have a good day, and thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much, KY Maverick. Common Sense Investigator, get my name right. It's Mazza, not Mazda. Autocorrect got the best of you, Lauren. Autocorrect got the best of you. That's okay. We love you, Lauren. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one, and take care. Media assets. I get the Mazda banner out of the way here. There we go.